All right, you and I are about to watch the capital swallowed by hellfire and blood. In the middle of this chaos, people flee for their lives, while a sinister voice proclaims that the era of nightmares has only just begun. Out of the smoke and shadows, a terrifying winged beast rises from the pits, promising nothing but absolute destruction. The monster reveals itself as a dark angel, and the mages immediately classify it as a threat level 4 disaster. Without a moment's hesitation, the fallen angel rains down soul fire, obliterating every single thing in its way. From a safe distance, two young noblewomen watch the devastation, feeling completely helpless against the monster. A red-haired heroine stands in frozen shock, knowing this Tier 4 monster possesses the power to wipe an entire kingdom off the map very easily. Her blonde companion offers to fight, but the knight orders her to prioritize the evacuation of the innocent townsfolk instead. With steel in her eyes, the knight vows to hold the line against the beast. Even if it only buys a few seconds. Her friend is terrified, but the redhead insists she will find a way to survive. Suddenly, the war bells ring out, summoning every knight and mage to the central citadel for a final stand. The girl admits she is only a third-tier warrior, but swears to hold out as long as possible. Meanwhile, the fallen angel prepares its next strike, chanting ancient, dark words that chill the very soul. The beast lunges as she screams for her friend. Now pay attention. This is the moment our hero finally arrives. Suddenly, a stranger tells the knight to move. She watches in total shock as the man readies his own powerful attack. Before anyone can blink, the mysterious stranger obliterates the massive creature with a single, devastating and earth-shattering punch. From the impact, the dark angel turns to solid stone, while the stranger stands victoriously over the remains. The girls are absolutely stunned as he smirks, noting it has been a very long time since he last set eyes on another human being. Then he asks what year it is, leaving the red-haired knight completely baffled by the strange question. Stuttering, the knight asks for his name, while her blonde companion trembles with fear right behind her. After the man repeats his dark question, the girl nervously replies that it is the 6th of October, 1224. The warrior looks completely shaken by her answer because, in his mind, only one single year had gone by. In his mind, he realizes he spent centuries in the abyss while only a year passed here. With a grimace, he sees his calculations about the time distortion were totally wrong. The young man remembers that it was exactly 1 year ago today that his hellish nightmare first began. On that dark day, he came face to face with his greatest rival for the first time. He remembers falling into the demon realm of Mordrith, a hellscape of endless trials. Despite the unimaginable suffering and pain, our hero eventually managed to claw his way out as the ultimate victor. And just like that, you and I witness his return to our world after an eternity. The knight wonders if he is a legendary grandmaster, or perhaps some secret weapon belonging to the royal guard. But she would have heard of him. Meanwhile, the man wonders if someone else slipped through the cracks of time. Suddenly, a heavy royal carriage pulls up beside the three of them. Royal guards in heavy plate armor jump out of the carriage. Various mages surround the area as the commander orders every soldier to take their battle positions. He arrives with the swagger of a man who settles every conflict. The commander greets the ladies, and the knight immediately recognizes him as the legendary Lord Cedric. Cedric pats her shoulder, apologizing for being late and telling her he will handle the rest of this mess. Cedric asks about the beast, but one arrogant soldier decides to step forward and barks at our hero to move. The guard mocks his strange outfit, calling him a fake knight, and gets furious when the hero completely ignores his presence. Sensing the danger, the knight begs the commander to restrain his aggressive soldier. Ignoring the noise, our hero gives the man a 3-second ultimatum. With eyes glowing with dark power, he asks the soldier for one good reason why he should let him live. Trembling with nerves, the massive soldier draws his blade and readies himself for a fight. The knight desperately explains that this man just killed a Tier 4 beast, leaving the commander stunned and incredibly anxious. Desperate, The soldier thinks he has to strike first, or he is going to end up dead. The guard charges, shouting his bladestorm technique, but he is suddenly cut off. Without breaking a sweat, our hero stops the entire assault with a single finger placed on the man's forehead. With terrifying force, he slams the guard into the dirt, shattering the stone. Looking down, he coldly says that his 3 seconds are up. The commander screams in shock as you and I watch the end. All right, stick with me because you and I are about to meet a mysterious hero who literally does not care about saving his own teammates at all. He points toward the sky, warning that the rift is tearing open again. He warns that even if they all fight together, they won't stand a chance against what's coming. The knights standing around are absolutely paralyzed with pure terror at his words. The commander can't believe what he's seeing, his body frozen in a state of absolute fear. A massive beast climbs out of the portal, immediately identified as a rank 6 threat. Captain Julian frantically calls HQ, shouting that the beast known as the Blood Horn has arrived. Back at the command center, they report this creature could wipe out 30 million lives in one day. Seeing the danger, the captain releases his energy and orders every knight in the kingdom to be summoned. The squad prepares for a suicide mission to buy some time. The man in glasses screams for the young Lady Alina to take the other girl and run as far as they can. Now watch this closely. While everyone else is charging to their deaths, our hero is just standing there. Alina is totally lost, wondering why this guy is just standing still while everyone is getting slaughtered. She turns to him, demanding to know why he isn't helping his brothers in arms fight. The boy just gives her a chilling smile and asks why on earth he should bother. She argues that this is his kingdom too, and he has the power to stop it. He just asks her for one good reason why he should even care. He continues, stating that the weak always perish while only the strong are meant to survive. He says this is the iron law of the world. If they have the power to live, they should fight for it themselves. Otherwise, they'll just get crushed by the strong, right as the beast tears through another group of soldiers. Seeing all that blood and destruction up close, Alina is left in a state of shock. Ignoring the battle, he asks where the mage council is. He calls her useless and simply turns his back on her. Serafina gets furious, calling him a lunatic for worrying about directions during a massacre. She tries to drag her friend away, but Alina refuses. The girl stands up, declaring that this isn't how a person with true power is supposed to act. She summons her twin blades from a magical portal, saying those with strength have a duty to act. She charges the monster, shouting that the strong must always protect the weak. Alaric is shocked to see her attack the giant beast, but her blades fail, and she's immediately disarmed by the massive creature's sheer power. With that, the beast opens its massive jaws, ready to swallow the girl in one gulp. You saw that coming, right? Well, get ready, because you and I are about to see the save of a lifetime. With brutal force, the monster's head is slammed into the pavement. The other knights just stare, completely stunned by what they're seeing. Alaric catches her in his arms and whispers that she's actually a very interesting girl. With his cloak fluttering like demon wings, he holds her and tells her that he likes her. Her face turns bright red as the boy introduces himself as Alaric. He tells her that from now on, he will be her master, the great demon lord. The young girl is totally confused by the declaration, wondering if this boy really is a true demon. But her thoughts are cut short when the monster lets out a deafening roar, preparing to strike again. Looking annoyed, the boy calls the massive beast a pathetic, insignificant little bug. With a terrifying glare, he tells the thing it doesn't even have the right to breathe near him. With one precise punch, he silences the creature with insane force. The impact is so heavy it makes the entire city shake. He glares at the beast, annoyed its head is higher than his. He creates a massive sphere of energy right above it. He asks the thing why it hasn't bowed yet. The sphere crushes the monster's head into the dirt. The other knights are paralyzed, unable to process this level of power. He looks at the broken creature and says that now they're finally on the same level. Then he reaches out his hand, and a glowing crystal begins to tear out of the monster. The purple stone flies into his hand. With a bored look, he stares at it and mutters that it's nothing special. The commander watches in shock, wondering if that's the legendary mana stone they've heard about. The crystal turns into dust, while Alina just stares at him, her mind completely blown by the scene. She stammers out a question, asking if something just happened to him. And that's where we leave it. Trust me, you and I are going to want to see what happens next. Stick with me, you and I are about to see a girl forced into a terrifying choice. Tristan makes it clear he won't repeat himself. She must follow him, or else. Right then, Captain Julian screams out that he will never allow this to happen. He thanks him for the help, but insists Nora is one of them and stays put. With a cold gaze, Tristan answers simply, he can. He adds that he never asked for permission and tells the entire group to get out of his way. Releasing a crushing aura, he forces every gifted knight to their knees, gasping in agony. Julian wonders what this power is, as Tristan calls them nothing more than pathetic insects. Annoyed by their interference, he decides it is time to wipe them all out forever. But Nora throws herself forward, pleading for him to spare her companions. The girl agrees to follow him as long as he promises not to harm her friends. The Shadow Lord observes her, noting her sense of justice, but he perceives that it is not just that and senses something far more mysterious about the blonde girl. Suddenly, magical scryer screens flash before his eyes, revealing every single one of her secrets. Now here is where things get wild. Tristan realizes she has a dual class, something rare even in dark kingdoms. Even with her weak stats, he is confident he can train her into a masterpiece. He declares that she has been chosen and extends his hand to the young woman, who hesitantly accepts. As their hands meet, Nora screams in pain, but he tells her to stay calm. Holding her tight, he explains this is a soul-binding ritual and it won't hurt. A massive pillar of crimson light erupts toward the heavens. The surviving knights can only watch from a distance, stunned by the sheer power. They stare at the light, wondering what kind of nightmare they just witnessed in that clearing. Moments later, a young healer uses his magic to mend Captain Julian's wounds and the broken bodies of the fallen knights. Seraphina speaks with 𝒆𝒍𝒍. He finds it impossible to believe that a single warrior defeated so many and managed to kidnap one of their own. The girl replies that she barely believes it either, and reveals the man was named Tristan. She mentions he was looking for the royal archive, which clearly rattles the old knight. Seraphina asks if they will give chase, but she knows that would be a death sentence. Trust me, you and I wouldn't stand a chance. No one there could stop a monster like that. Walking toward a distant building, he asks if they've arrived, and Nora nervously confirms they have. In her mind, the girl wonders if she should try to magically send her location. She thinks about sending a signal to her companions, but Tristan, as if reading her mind, tells her there is no need to warn anyone, leaving her terrified. He knows exactly what she is thinking. Her red-headed friend will surely send backup very soon. The Shadow Lord adds that even if an entire army arrived to rescue her now, they would be crushed like insects. He turns and warns her that escape is impossible because, from this moment on, she belongs to him. He simply orders her to lead the way, and Nora, having no choice, obeys him. With tears in her eyes, the girl points toward the entrance and follows in silence. At the door, Tristan looks at a photo and calls out to his grandmother. After hundreds of years wandering through hellish demonic dimensions, he has finally managed to return home. Looking at the picture, he admits to himself that even through the ages, he never forgot. With that, the young man announces that he is finally going to find her at last. But Nora points inside the office in shock. What they find is a completely ruined room. Seeing the wreckage, our hero is blinded by fury and demands to know who is responsible for this mess. Meanwhile, a magic carriage rushes toward the site. 𝒆𝒍 has found intel on a commoner named Tristan. Records confirm the address and name match. It is the same person they are looking for. Then the red-headed girl reveals his full name is Tristan the Tiny and starts to laugh. Seraphina bursts into laughter, because his name sounds like a complete and utter joke to her. The healer explains that the records say he is just a normal student, not a knight. Suddenly, Cedric remembers a conflict between House Degas and the Ilsum Order. This is getting serious. The team realizes they must hurry, because something truly terrible is about to go down. Tristan asks what happened, but Nora starts to get very nervous about the whole situation. As you and I can see, this war is just starting. There is blood in the water. All right, you and I are diving into a tragedy where even the bravest knights could not stop the total destruction of the city. Innocents were buried alive beneath the stone, and amidst the dust, Alaric collapses to his knees, his heart shattering as he thinks of his grandmother. Clutching her tattered portrait, he cries out for her, his eyes filled with pure despair. Memories flood back of a happier time, watching her laugh and complain about her age as she hugged him tight. She labored every single day, and back then, Alaric swore he would build her a grand manor one day. Now those dreams are ash, and Serafina watches from the shadows, overwhelmed by the crushing waves of grief pouring off our broken hero. A suffocating, pitch-black aura begins to swirl around him as Alaric demands to know who caused this massacre. Consumed by fury, he growls, wondering which damned souls would dare lay a finger on his only family. As his killing intent reaches a boiling point, he demands to see the monsters responsible until something suddenly catches his eye. Commander Sterling steps forward, identifying himself as the head of the King's Royal Intelligence Squad. He bows, requesting a word, but internally he is reeling from the massive surge of power radiating from the boy. Now watch this. He senses Alaric is at least an S rank, but our hero tells them all to move or die. Sterling persists, admitting the culprits belong to the Order of the Ascended, though their specific names remain a mystery for now. Alaric coldly says he has heard enough and walks away, leaving the commander staring at his back in total silence. He declares he is heading for the Order of the Ascended. Stunned, the commander asks if he truly intends to go alone. But Lady Clara interrupts, warning that this boy might actually be capable of burning their whole world down. Fearing the fallout, Sterling barks orders for his elite squad to intercept and restrain Alaric immediately. The knights grumble about subduing a random commoner, and a cocky young mage mocks Alaric, assuming this will be a quick fight. He laughs that he will have no trouble, before conjuring jagged stones and hurling them straight at our hero. The rocks shatter upon impact without leaving a single mark, making the other knights realize their target is no amateur. Suddenly, a hulking warrior leaps forward, swinging a massive claymore with the intent to crush Alaric into dust. The massive blade does not even leave a scratch. Alaric caught the weapon with his bare hands while looking completely bored. With an effortless flick, Alaric sends the warrior flying, prompting the cocky mage to scream for everyone to fall back immediately. A hidden spell strikes next, but Alaric effortlessly deploys an invisible barrier to deflect the magical assault. You and I both know what comes next. The mage is slammed into the dirt by pure gravity as Alaric commands them to move. Watching the carnage, Lady Clara warns her comrades that they have zero chance of stopping this literal monster. With the squad broken, Clara realizes her grim prediction was true. He is going to annihilate the entire mage guild. Staring at the boy engulfed in shadows, the commander wonders how anyone in the kingdom could possibly stop such a beast. Just then, a small hand clutches our hero's dark cloak, desperately trying to pull him back from the edge. Serafina begs her master to stop this madness, but Alaric turns, coldly asking if his own servant dares to defy his divine command. He recalls the dark, soul-binding ritual he used to tie her very essence to his. He reminds her that she is bound by blood to follow his lead and can never truly betray his will. Yet her spirit is stronger than he thought, and she argues that good people still exist in this world. She explains that the knights will die to protect the innocent, even if Alaric considers them his mortal enemies. She explains they fight for those they could not save, and with tears in her eyes, she whispers that she understands his pain. It is all just too sad, and her own heart is breaking for him. She pleads with him to stop, reminding him that others are out there risking their lives to prevent more tragedies. Stunned by her compassion, Alaric begins to calm, questioning the real reason he ever chose to return to this realm. A memory of his grandmother resurfaces, where she told him he never needed to be the strongest or the smartest. She believed that simply being a kind soul would allow him to help those who truly needed it. Softening, Alaric gently pats Seraphina's head and thanks her, admitting that her words helped him remember the real purpose of his journey back. He only survived the trials of the abyss, so he could finally live a peaceful life by his grandmother's side. Gazing at the broken stones, he mourns that it is now far too late for the woman he loved. He vows then and there to protect this kingdom, just as his grandmother always taught him to do. Seraphina beams with joy and agrees with all her heart, but Alaric quickly snaps at her to maintain her composure. He reminds her she only lives by his grace. He then offers the knights a deal. "Trust me, you and I need to see this. Stick with me. You and I are watching the squad stand there absolutely baffled." Clutching a glowing relic, Arthur revealed his one condition. They must find his grandmother's killer within 3 days. We move to the towering fortress of the Royal Intelligence Bureau headquarters. Inside, an officer sprints through the halls shouting for Captain Alistair, arriving in a fury and cursing him for vanishing. Commander Magnus keeps barking orders, yelling that the captain should have reported the situation immediately. Alistair apologizes, explaining he was busy cleaning up the chaos, while the commander demands to know how they stop a rank 6 threat. He promises a full report later, but mentions a more urgent matter, leaving the commander intrigued. Then he spots Arthur and asks if he is one of the awakened. The captain explains he is a newly awakened found at the scene, and the commander asks if he is still unregistered. He orders them to take the boy for testing and registration right away, leaving Seraphina and Sophia terrified. The demon lord overhears this and asks mockingly if they really intend to test him, flashing a dark smile at the sheer absurdity of their request. Cut to a long corridor, packed with people waiting for their turn. Arthur complains about the massive crowd, but Seraphina explains most are just hopeful commoners praying to become awakened. But our hero grows impatient, demanding to know if they truly expect a lord like him to wait. Nervously, she rushes to the desk, terrified that if he is forced to stay in line, something catastrophic might happen. The redhead sprints to reception, identifying themselves as the White Tiger Squad, while the clerk asks if this is for Arthur Sterling's power assessment. But the clerk points to the massive crowd, explaining hundreds are already waiting to be classified. The attendant warns they will have to wait 2 hours, no exceptions, no matter who they are. At that moment, Arthur's eyes ignite with a terrifying red fury. Now pay attention. A dark aura erupts as he asks if they dare make him wait behind commoners, while his maid desperately begs her master to stay calm. An arrogant man in line gets irritated, snapping that the boy needs to wait his turn like everyone else. The man freezes in horror as he feels the crushing pressure of a true demon lord, as Arthur glares at the crowd and orders them to move. The receptionist stands completely frozen, paralyzed by the sheer terror radiating from our hero. The demon lord declares that assessing these insignificant peasants is nothing but a total waste of his time. While Nora helps a man in shock, Arthur orders the staff to classify him immediately, if they have the courage to try. With people collapsed everywhere, the commander complains that this is what happens when they send such a monster for a simple grading. Magnus laments the chaos, knowing every single awakened knight is precious, but the blonde girl just smiles and says they are lucky he showed such restraint. She explains that her master was actually being quite kind by not slaughtering everyone in the room. The commander wonders who this boy truly is to cause such a terrifying reaction in every knight present. Alistair approaches and warns his superior to brace himself, as our hero enters the chamber and steps toward the mana orb. An attendant explains that since he is a mage type, he needs to strike the orb with a spell. You and I both know this isn't going to end well, especially when he thinks it's absurd to waste his godlike power on a simple magic rock. He uses the bare minimum mana and commands the orb to explode. But when nothing happens, he's genuinely confused why his magic failed to trigger the device. An operator in the control room tells him not to get nervous and just try to relax for the test. Deeply irritated by this, Arthur clenches his fist in a rage, deciding to ditch the magic and just punch the orb with all his physical might. As his fist connects, he whispers the word, "explode." Suddenly, a colossal wave of energy erupts from the shattered magical artifact. The operator watches in total shock as the indestructible mana orb completely disintegrates into thin air. She nervously thanks him and tries to move to the next trial, but our hero cuts her off immediately. The demon lord declares it pointless because no toy in this kingdom can measure his true power, demanding they stop wasting his time and give him the results. The attendant shows the commander the shocking data, while the blonde girl notes that Arthur finished even faster than she did. The commander analyzes the data while sweating buckets, as Sophia asks how the evaluation went. Then she boldly invites the demon lord to grab a coffee afterward. But they both turn for the rank. The screen flashes S-class, and trust me, you and I can see he is absolutely bored to death. Later, our protagonist and the blonde girl are relaxing together in a quiet cafe. Stick with me, we are watching a legendary lord complain about bitter tea before his loyal servant Nora offers up her own drink and promises she can order another one. The young lord accepts it, taking a small sip with a surprisingly cute expression on his face. He actually enjoys the flavor, getting a bit flushed from the sweet taste. Nora then asks her master what his type is. Lord Alistair calmly replies that he might be the magical type, which leaves the young girl completely confused. He explains that since his arrival, he has only been using physical enchantments rather than his actual high-level magic. He remembers a divine message stating his true powers were restricted while outside the dark abyss. Nora is shocked, realizing true magic is banned in this kingdom. She imagines him as a simple circus performer, but he snaps at her since he can read her every thought. The Dark Lord knows that summoning his massive fortress would be a disaster and likely crush the entire building. Suddenly, Commander Julian calls out his name, and our protagonist turns around to see what the man wants. Now watch this. The commander nervously announces he is rank S, leaving everyone shocked. Julian reveals he is the first rank S awakened in the kingdom, and the young woman is absolutely stunned. Alistair tells him to stop the empty praise and just get straight to the point about what he really wants. Stuttering, the commander tries to explain the entire situation. However, before the man can even finish, the young lord cuts him off and immediately refuses the offer. Desperate, Julian claims that joining the royal media will bring him massive fame and a fortune in gold. But the Abyss Lord finds this annoying, stating he can make gold whenever he wants. He says they should be grateful he even agreed to cooperate with them in the first place. With a cold look, he adds that he will only assist them if every single one of his conditions is met. The leader knows he must find a criminal fast, while a mysterious villain mocks that no knight can stop them. A black carriage speeds down the path, taking our protagonist and his servant toward a hidden, safe location. Inside the carriage, the commander agrees that he will keep Alistair's true rank S power a total secret. He also confirms they will prepare a secure estate for the young lord and his servant to live in. Watching them leave, Julian laments that they cannot officially show off the most powerful man in the entire country. Nora explains that having a rank S warrior would completely shift the balance of power across all the kingdoms. The commander believes people would feel safer if they knew he existed. The scene shifts as the lord and servant arrive at a massive mansion. They walk through a massive garden with a clear pool toward the giant estate. You and I can see Nora is amazed by the scale, but our lord is not impressed. He says it is nothing compared to his dark castle, though it is not too bad. 3 days later, the leader of the Silver Wing Knights arrives at the mansion for a visit. As he approaches the main doors, He becomes very confused by the strange noises echoing from inside. The leader wonders if he is hearing the sounds of a violent battle. He carefully pushes the door open, wanting to know what is happening. Inside, he sees the training hall completely wrecked with the young girl sitting, exhausted on the stone floor. The protagonist encourages her, telling her to come at him with every bit of her strength. Following orders, Nora grabs her twin blades and lunges at her master. The commander realizes the two are currently in the middle of a training session. The blonde girl crosses her steel, preparing a strike. She leaps toward her master, fully ready to hit. She tries a powerful jumping attack from above, while her master calmly watches her from below. Nora brings her blades down with all her might. However, he simply catches them barehanded, shocking her before he throws the girl back with incredible force. She lands on her knees, sliding across the floor as if she were about to strike again. However, she lets out a small cry of pain, so the young lord decides training is over for today. He says that despite being weak, she is improving and must keep training without stopping. Then, thinking to himself that to truly be his subordinate, she must reach rank S. Nora then reminds him that the deadline he set is already here. Someone waits nervously behind the door. The young woman asks if he will really end them, but the Lord says enough time has passed. She argues that those are still lives and he should not do something so cruel. The Abyss Lord reflects on her words, saying he has not heard such a thing in centuries. He remembers the Dark Realm, where life was cheap, and everything was about cold survival. Then he comforts her, saying that what he is about to do is not mindless slaughter. He explains this is revenge for his grandmother, and a warning to stop this from ever happening again. He says that even if some are lost, many others will be saved by this action. So what do you and I think? It seems our demon lord has become a bit soft since arriving here. All right, you and I are about to watch a dark knight absolutely dismantle a corrupt kingdom. Stick with me as Commander Vance slams the door open, shouting he can't listen to their chatter anymore. He has a delivery, but Alistair just sighs, saying a messenger bird would have worked fine. Embarrassed, Vance stammers that he wanted to hand over the bounty information to Alistair personally. He notices Alara has changed a lot, wondering if serving under such a dark master did the trick. Alistair snaps that he hates wasting daylight. Vance quickly bows and apologizes for the delay. The commander hands over a leather folder, confirming the investigation into the local bandits is finally complete. Alistair scans the report. The culprits are the Iron Serpent Syndicate, an old mercenary troupe that gained dark magic and turned into a nightmare for the realm. But they are still just common thugs who prey on the innocent townspeople nearby. Vance explains their hands are tied because the syndicate has powerful friends within the High Council. Alistair closes the file, noting that trash exists in every kingdom. They have just been very lucky. He tells Vance he can clean the streets without even getting his armor dirty. He turns to Alara and asks if she knows her role in this hunt. The young girl looks confused for a second, but she soon realizes exactly what her master wants. He tells them to stay put because his long-awaited vengeance is finally within reach. Meanwhile, Silas, the leader of the Iron Serpents, celebrates another stolen territory while mocking the royal knights and their pathetic laws. Watch this part carefully. Suddenly, the hideout is rocked by a massive explosion falling from the heavens above. Chaos erupts as the bandits scramble to protect Silas. They rush outside, where the furious leader demands his elite mages stand and fight. In front of the burning manor, the syndicate members look at the sky in absolute horror. High above, a message written in dragon fire demands they pay for their sins. The mercenaries panic, screaming about who could have found them. Terrified, they point upward, spotting a dark figure standing in the middle of the roaring flames. Floating in the air, Alistair asks if they are the scum of the Iron Serpent Syndicate. He orders them to confess and bow until their bones break in apology. With a deadly glare, he promises a quick death only for those who beg. The members of the syndicate are left shaking, paralyzed by the sheer power they are witnessing. Silas points a trembling finger at the Dark Knight, screaming that he is the culprit. Then vows his entire guild will tear him apart. Thinking he can prove his worth to the syndicate, one foolhardy bandit charges forward to attack. The thug screams insults as Alistair drops from the sky, looking down at the ants below with pure disgust. Alistair lands like a meteor, declaring this is their final warning before he stops showing any hint of mercy. Frozen in fear, the criminals wonder what kind of monster has come for them. One coward tries to bolt, screaming that he is not dying for a guild that is clearly doomed. Alistair asks who gave them permission to leave, then hurls a spear that pins the runner to the ground. You and I saw that coming, right? Silas freezes as Alistair scoffs, saying they could have died quickly if they had a shred of courage. The leader is left speechless, suffocating under the crushing pressure of the protagonist's aura. Silas abandons his men, telling them to hold the line while he flees. Alistair just laughs at the cowardice of a leader who runs. He watches the man retreat, disgusted by how easily he threw his own soldiers away. Thinking this world is just as rotten as the underworld, Alistair lets his power explode, leveling the entire area. The smoke clears to show the devastation, with the earth torn apart and walls shattered. Inside a hidden bunker, the iron doors lock tight. Silas panics, claiming the room is crafted from magical gems and that normal weapons can never breach these walls. He seethes with rage, convinced this is payback for a failed job from his past. His bodyguard asks how many troops are left, but Silas realizes he sent them all. A few surviving members gather, hoping they can somehow take down a high-rank knight. They see the invader and one screams that Alistair is simply too strong and dangerous. Realizing the boy is a master of the dark arts, they all charge in one last desperate attempt. With a grin, our anti-hero loves the idea and tells them to all come at once. He charges in, declaring that they don't even compare to his true power. He tears through the syndicate members like paper as they scream desperately for help. Cowering inside the vault, the guild leader and his last guards listen in terror. Silence fills the room as Silas frantically looks for an escape route. Outside, Alistair causes another massive blast, mocking them and asking if they like the heat. He walks through the rubble, heading straight for the room where the cowards are hiding. So what do you and I take from this? Never hunt a predator. Alistair says the rats always hide in the dark as the bodyguard watches in shock. Bridge 1, stick with me, because you and I are about to witness a truly brutal execution. The coward bangs on the glass, screaming for his life. But our demon knight grabs his throat, demanding to know why he deserves mercy after the blood he has spilled. Without a second thought, Arthur crushes the man's skull and ends his miserable existence. Watching this nightmare unfold, the guild master trembles and calls the boy a monster. Lord Arthur coldly explains that his only mission is the total annihilation of this corrupt house. He stares the leader down, asking for one good reason not to kill him next. The snake tries to claim self-defense, but Arthur sees right through his pathetic lies. He exposes the truth. They were the ones who struck first without a moment of hesitation. The master is stunned he knows everything, desperately hoping this is just some sick joke. He rallies his pride, vowing to kill our hero even if he loses an arm in the process. With a roar of desperation, he charges forward with everything he has got. He lands a heavy punch directly on the boy's face, but he does not even flinch. The leader is absolutely livid. Bridge 2. Now, pay attention here, because this next minute is going to be embarrassing. The master snaps, throwing a frantic barrage of strikes. But every single blow hits an invisible barrier protecting the Dark Lord. Nothing can touch him, not even a scratch. Arthur looks on with pure boredom. He refuses to lose to garbage like this. He remembers the only reason he returned to this world was his dear grandmother. The leader winds up another strike, screaming it will hurt, but suddenly, his arm is ripped clean from his body. The demon lord stands perfectly still, while the chief howls in agony. Not even a minute has passed. Looking at the broken man, Arthur coldly changes his mind. He promises to end him now, but only after making him feel every ounce of pain imaginable, while he begs for a death that won't come. The dying man gasps, asking why Arthur cares about these deaths. Desperate and bleeding, the chief offers anything to survive. But look around, everyone he could possibly beg for help has already been slaughtered by our protagonist. With eyes full of horror, he realizes he is truly alone. There is nobody left to save him. Bridge 3, so what do you and I make of this aftermath? Sometime later, knights cordon off the guild hall while an investigator notes the sheer scale of the carnage. This boy didn't hold back. Now, a much bigger problem is brewing. The High Council of Mages definitely won't let this slide. One council member calls it a massacre, not a murder. They cannot ignore such a violent display of power in their kingdom. Behind closed doors, they debate how to punish an S-rank knight. They fear that letting him go will encourage others to take the law into their own hands. But the Grand Master ignores the bickering, shifting focus to a far more urgent crisis. He brings up the terrifying increase in dark portals appearing across the land. There has been a massive spike in monster activity lately. 12 portals appeared this week alone, bringing forth monsters beyond imagination. No ordinary hunter can stop them, but luckily, they have an S rank on their side. The leader believes the boy can handle it, but he can't be allowed to run wild. One official panics, as the Grand Master demands that the boy apologize for the guild's slaughter. Seeing the leader's stern gaze, the official quickly backs down and apologizes. The leader calms the room, acknowledging the frustration of this impossible situation. They are dealing with an unstoppable force, and the kingdom's very survival rests in their hands. Meanwhile, Arthur is taking a shower, spotting his maid through the mirror. Elena finishes her chores and decides it is time to wash her master's clothes. But when she opens his wardrobe, she freezes in shock. Every single outfit is identical. She wonders if the royal agency has absolutely no sense of style at all. Grabbing a fresh set, she heads to her master but lets out a loud scream. Arthur is just drying his hair, wondering why on earth she is screaming. Blushing deep red, she scolds him for walking out like that. She stammers through an explanation, shoves the clothes at him, and begs to leave the room immediately. As she sprints away, Arthur just thinks about how clumsy his new subordinate is. Later on, the two of them relax together in the peaceful manor gardens. Elena watches him, noticing the heavy silence and the emptiness that follows a completed revenge. She starts thinking of ways to bring a little joy back to her master's life. Suddenly, she lights up with a brilliant idea and turns to him excitedly. Bridge 4, trust me, you and I are about to see a whole new side of our hero. She suggests they go shopping. All right, you and I are about to see how a simple shopping trip turns into a high-stakes power move. The girl is absolutely thrilled and delighted that her lord agreed to go shopping. Nora says she will get ready, but her master mentions a problem. Worried, she wonders if something terrible is about to happen. The boy then reveals he is completely out of gold at the moment. Nora offers to lend him her savings, but he immediately declines. With that, the young man summons a purple crystal and says the House of Alaric never borrows gold. Holding the gem, he explains that if they sell it, they will have more than enough money for everything. A short while later, the two arrive at a massive building in the city center. Nora explains this is the Imperial Trade Hub. She adds that not only elite agents, but also the most powerful awakened individuals come here to negotiate. As they approach, a smiling attendant greets them and asks what exactly they are looking to sell today. She needs to see the goods to judge the price, but once she sees that purple crystal, don't blink, because she's about to be absolutely speechless. She then nervously asks them to wait just a moment while she makes an urgent call to her superior. The clerk calls Baron Sterling and tells him about the rare find. She excitedly shouts that the size of the gem is completely abnormal. Moments later, the man is talking with the young lord and his subordinate in his private office. The man introduces himself as Baron Sterling from the sales division and welcomes them inside. He wonders what an imperial knight is doing with this commoner. Suddenly, our hero slams the massive purple crystal onto the table in front of him. Baron Sterling is stunned and cannot believe the sheer size of it, questioning what level this gem could possibly be. The protagonist asks what their offer is, while the man continues to stare at the crystal, and the boy in total shock. Sterling apologizes and says buying a stone that size would require an entire national budget. Getting impatient, Alaric takes the gem back with a look of pure disdain. He uses his raw power to shatter the massive stone into several smaller pieces. The sales director looks on in surprise as the young man asks if this is enough for them to handle. Sterling wonders how anyone can shatter magic stones and notes that just one piece is worth billions. He can pay, but gathering the gold will take time. Watch closely, even a billionaire is sweating bullets here. Our hero is disappointed and says it is pathetic that the largest market in the country lacks the gold for this. Nora then steps in and asks if they can at least pay a portion of the price up front. The man says this situation is unprecedented, but the girl reminds him they can make a massive profit from these stones. She makes a final demand and says that if he pays 1 billion gold crowns, they will accept the deal right now. Meanwhile, the young man stares at her and wonders how she even dares to negotiate with such a powerful man. Under immense pressure, Sterling accepts the offer, thinking the young man is a wild beast. Soon, the transfer of 1 billion gold crowns is complete and the fortune lands in Alaric's account. With the payment finally confirmed, Nora smiles excitedly and says they can finally shop. Walking down the street, she suggests checking the master's clothes first after her successful bargain. But back in the office, the sales director is furious and wonders how those low-born vermin dared to treat him like that. He cannot believe they took advantage of him, a man who considers himself a true member of the social elite. Filled with rage, he grabs his phone and promises to show them the true power of gold and influence. He makes a call and tells the person on the other end that he has some scoundrels he wants dealt with. Far away, our hero and his subordinate enjoy their day when suddenly the sky turns purple and many violent lightning bolts appear. Suddenly, a sinister purple energy surges through the city sky, catching everyone's eye. Meanwhile, the girl is super excited as she looks at all the fancy clothing stores in town. With that, she points to one of the shops and calls out for her master to go inside with her. But the young man tells her to buy something for herself first, since he does not need anything new. The girl immediately refuses and says today is strictly for his wardrobe. She takes her master's arm and pulls him toward the store entrance. She drags him inside, telling him that today he is finally going to dress like a true noble. The young man just watches her in silence, surprised by her bold attitude. He thinks to himself that the more he notices her, the more impressed he becomes. Alaric looks down at Nora's hand as she tightly holds onto his fingers. He keeps thinking that the more he observes her, the more peculiar she seems. The two finally arrive at a luxury clothing store called the Gilded Rose to begin shopping. Right at the entrance, a well-dressed employee greets the two of them with a deep, respectful bow. He asks if they are looking for something specific, and the blonde girl excitedly points to the most expensive clothes. She wants him dressed in the finest silks. Our hero finds it all boring. Trust me, even he can't win against a girl who wants to shop. All right, stick with me, because the capital is about to witness an absolute nightmare. The tailors announce they have finished their work, and Alara is left absolutely breathless by her master's transformation. Adjusting the fine silk, Lord Arthur admits he is really not used to wearing such noble attire. Feeling a bit out of place, he turns to his knight and asks for her honest opinion. Stammering and turning bright red, the young woman exclaims that he looks incredibly handsome. She even swears she is telling the truth and he looks perfect that way. The girl then declares she can hardly wait to tell the whole kingdom that he is her master. He adjusts the collar of his new coat, still a bit uncomfortable in the silk clothes. He says they can go, but Alara is confused by his haste. She asks if his lordship wants to look in the mirror, but he simply says there is no need. Arthur claims her opinion is the only one that matters, and now it is time to buy her some things. With a flushed face, Alara is thrilled he liked the look. Lord Arthur tells her to hurry while his partner agrees with pure excitement. After hours of shopping, the two stop at a nearby tavern to have a drink and finally rest. With a huge smile on her face, Alara clutches her shopping bags, clearly happy with the day's results. Suddenly, her eyes widen as she spots something strange in the city sky. She looks up, startled by the massive rift appearing directly above them. Lord Arthur stares up at the massive purple rift that has suddenly materialized over the capital city. The townspeople stop dead in their tracks to witness the horror. Alara asks what it is, and her master confirms a massive gate has just opened. But the young lord notes that this is a type of portal he has never seen before. Inside the rift, a bizarre crimson creature begins to emerge. A giant, terrifying eye watches the city from within the dimensional crack. The girl panics, knowing an unannounced rift appearance is a total disaster for the kingdom. Face pale with terror, she realizes that this is a completely unknown and unstable portal. She explains these rifts only bring ruin or godly enemies, remembering the legends of a horrific creature from the ancient, unknown portals. Alara looks down as her master begins to speak. Meanwhile, the townspeople stare at the sky in absolute despair. Then the young man admits this creature will be stronger than any foe he has ever faced. The crimson monster continues to slowly crawl out of the purple rift in the center of the city. Desperate, Alara calls for help and warns they are in serious trouble. She screams that an unknown rift is about to fully open. At that moment, the beast's massive arms reach out from the portal, terrorizing the crowd below. Now pay attention, because Lord Arthur is about to do something absolutely insane. The head of a crimson demon with razor-sharp teeth finally appears. With a terrifying roar, the beast fully materializes before the crowd. As the monster lands, ancient stone buildings begin to crumble and absolute chaos ensues. Alara screams into her communication crystal that the rift is open, and things are spiraling out of control. Townspeople flee through the streets, screaming for others to move. In the chaos, a mother loses her little girl who is left alone and terrified. The commander asks the knight what she said about evacuating the civilians. The voice asks if she is still there, but the young woman is paralyzed by the carnage. She reports that her master will evacuate the townspeople and promises they will be fine until the royal knights arrive. You and I both know that dark look. It means he is not scared at all. Honestly, he looks absolutely thrilled by the new threat. With his eyes glowing a sinister red, he gives a terrifying grin. The young lord recognizes the beast, calling it an arrogant and mindless dragon of the void. He remembers a battle in the abyss where he ripped a similar monster's throat out. Looking at the rift, he thinks the challenge has finally come. A massive magic circle appears as he celebrates the chance to finally unleash his full power against a worthy foe. Desperate, Alara screams her master's name, trying to snap him back to reality. At her plea, the young lord stops channeling his magic in shock and turns to his knight. With tears in her eyes, Alara begs her master to help her with the evacuation. He looks at the knight, shocked as she pleads for his help once more. Meanwhile, the little girl remains lost and sobbing in the middle of the ruined street. Arthur looks down at the ants near his boots. He recalls how weak this world truly is as he pushes open a heavy nearby door. With the iron handle turning to ash, he says nothing in this realm can handle his power. Looking at his partner, he says monsters here are no match, and trust me, you and I are about to see his true power. Stick with me, you are about to see a lord whose power is so great, no mortal can even touch him. To him, this mortal realm was nothing more than a fragile sandcastle, crawling with ants. In the chaos of the present, peasants flee in terror while he stands unmoved amidst the wreckage. With eyes glowing like crimson embers, he scorns the pathetic weakness of everyone around him, recalling the abyss where only the strong survive to devour the fallen. Pity was a useless luxury for a lord, and defending the weak was nothing but a fool's errand. Yet this tiny kingdom defied the natural laws of power, and it irritated his very soul. He grew tired of suppressing his aura and decided that living uncomfortably was finally over. After all, he had found a real opponent. Floating in a shroud of dark energy, he roared that no knight or king could stop him now. Desperate, the girl cried out for her master, pulling him back to reality. With a tearful face, she pleaded for her lord to please help her. With trembling hands clasped in prayer, she begged him to save the innocent souls caught in the crossfire. High above, the scarlet beast roared again, raining down shards of the shattered citadel onto the crowds below. She looked up at the falling masonry, wondering if her blades alone could shatter every descending piece. The blonde knight leapt into the sky, spinning like a whirlwind to intercept the deadly stones with her steel. She shattered the rocks to protect everyone below. But panic seized her heart as she realized one woman could never stop such a massive deluge alone. A mother and child were moments from death when an invisible shield manifested, halting the stones midair. Seraphina watched in awe. Her master had actually used his forbidden arts to protect the common folk. He pulverized the remaining boulders with a thought. His subordinate could only stare, shocked by this sudden act of mercy. With a calm smile, he tells her to evacuate the area. Now watch her reaction carefully. He ascended, wreathed in power, reflecting that he had even begun to overlook his own loyal knight lately. Cloaked in hellfire, the boy declared he would never be a lord who failed his people. Grateful, the young woman gave her thanks and sprinted to begin the evacuation of the panicked civilians. She felt a rush of joy, her face flushing as she carried out the sacred command of her master. Raising her blades, she rallied the crowd to follow her to safety, while the Lord admitted he was doing this for her. The dark-haired youth figured a few seconds of charity would not kill him if it helped his loyal partner. Standing in the ruins, our Lord admitted there was one catch. Trust me, it is huge. He glared at the abomination in the sky, disgusted that such a creature dared to loom over his head. In that instant, shadowy wings began to erupt from his back. Shimmering with a lethal red light, the wings fully opened as he ascended slowly into the air. The Lord soared into the heavens with his newfound power, ready to strike the threat head-on. Gazing at the beast within the portal, he noted the creature was trapped. Its massive, singular eye glared back at the Lord with an expression of pure, unadulterated rage. With a sinister grin, he told the legendary creature he would gladly help it escape its cage. He grabbed the dragon's maw and delivered a blow of godlike strength, punching the monster straight into outer space. The kingdom watched in shock. Our hero declared that up there, they could finally duel without any distractions. Wreathed in light, he ascended toward the stars. He smiled and softly vanished. A beam of light shot toward the heavens, and suddenly they were both floating far above the planet Earth. The crimson dragon scanned the void, searching for its dangerous opponent. The Lord appeared before it, asking if the beast was awake now that no one would interrupt their dance. He sensed the creature was an ancient worm, truly hoping it would not prove to be a complete and total disappointment. Silence hung in the void until a mystic screen appeared, identifying the beast as Kairos. The records showed the creature had lost its way and violated the laws of the realm through a contract. He wondered if the dragon had truly surrendered its soul. Suddenly, the beast opened its maw, gathering a massive sphere of azure energy. A beam of raw power erupted, and the Lord knew this was not going to be a simple scuffle. Floating in the vacuum, he realized the human world lay directly behind him, defenseless and fragile. If that breath hit the planet, it would be a total massacre. He could easily dodge, but that would make this entire trip pointless. He chose to take the blast head-on, an invisible barrier flaring to life as the energy slammed into him. The dragon stopped, thinking it won, but trust me, we know better. All right, you and I are about to see what happens when a monster picks a fight with the wrong human. Alistair just stares at the beast, complaining that he literally just bought those royal silks. The creature loses it, fueling up an even bigger blast of raw energy. But with a cocky smirk, our hero charges straight at the monster with blinding speed. He lands a heavy right hook, right into the great dragon's ribs, before smashing another fist down on its skull. For the first time, the Crimson Beast lets out a blood-curdling scream as it finally feels the weight of a true opponent. Looking at his glowing knuckles, he admits that after all this time, hitting something this hard actually feels pretty good. He's just thrilled to find something that doesn't shatter the moment he touches it. Furious, the beast roars and lunges in for a deadly bite. Alistair just reaches out, calmly feeling the texture of the dragon's ancient scales like he's inspecting a piece of armor. Startled, the creature summons a massive arcane barrier to shield itself from the young knight's relentless strikes. Our lead just watches, his eyes sharp and calculating. The monster snaps its jaws, showing off those massive fangs to try and back him off. The demon lord kicks the shield with everything he's got, but this time, it doesn't even budge. With a grim look, he realizes he's dealing with a rare dragon sage that can actually use magic. He sees that this barrier will only delay the end of the battle. He admits his grasp on magic isn't enough to dispel it yet. But then he smiles, because there's nothing in existence he can't break with pure, raw strength. Fights get boring when they drag on, so he decides to use a relic from his private arsenal. Now watch this part carefully. Our hero opens a dark void and pulls out his legendary weapon, the blade 𝒆𝒂𝒅𝒆𝒔. Wielding the mythic steel, he asks the beast if it recognizes the blade that's about to end its life. He reveals the sword was forged from the spine of the terror dragon, 𝒁𝒑𝒏𝒕. The monster just snorts, unimpressed by the legend. As he warns the dragon that this weapon is the absolute worst it could ever face. The beast breathes a torrent of blue fire at him. Alistair just asks if it's ready to test its true power. With a single swing, he slices the energy beam in half. He looks at his sword and grins at its power. Enraged, the beast lunges again to swallow him whole, but our hero is way too fast and slips right past its jaws. He levels the blade, aiming it straight at the monster's massive heart. He drives the steel deep into its chest, the sheer force of the impact sending the massive creature flying backward. With a smirk, he tells the beast that it won't be casting any more spells. He stays low, watching his sword in the enemy's chest. Our hero declares that it's finally his turn and launches a devastating right hook at the dragon. The sheer force of the blow sends the massive dragon spiraling through the heavens. Let's pause for a second, because these mages in the floating citadel have no idea that a dragon is about to crash their party. The beast claws onto the fortress walls. Alistair admits his opponent is actually proving to be quite a skilled fighter. Purple flames erupt around him as he asks what other little tricks the beast has left in its bag. He recognizes the Tier 6 explosion spell called Flare. He laughs, wondering if the dragon actually thinks that's going to hit him. The dragon unleashes the blast, but he just shakes his head. He tells the beast it's useless because his magic resistance is at maximum. The monster is stunned, and our hero just asks if that's really all the legendary beast can do. He decides that if the magic is done, it's time to settle this with nothing but brute force. No more games. With a dark, wicked grin, he prepares the finishing blow as both fighters charge in for one last clash. Back in the kingdom, Lady Clara and her knights clear the rubble while little Lily holds up a massive stone pillar. She uses it to shield the panicked citizens who are absolutely terrified by the chaos unfolding above. At that moment, a young cleric in a traveling vest uses his light to heal the many injured survivors. Commander Cedric watches the destruction with a heavy heart. Suddenly, a report comes in that the Great Rift is finally closing. Moments later, a magical signal confirms it. The threat of the gate has been officially neutralized. Relieved, the commander turns to his squad, trying to wrap his head around how it all ended. He asks Lily where her master and that monster went. She just points to the clouds, saying they both ascended to heaven. Cedric just stares at her, completely lost, and slowly points toward the sky himself. He grips his head, trying to process this absurd news. Then a voice shouts out, asking if something that insane is even possible. And that's where we leave it. You and I just watched a man take a dragon to the heavens. Crazy, right? All right, let's dive into a story where one man's arrival changes everything for the kingdom. The commander tries to settle 𝑺𝒑𝒏𝒕, saying everyone is in total shock right now. But the High Knight snarls that he is not here just to sweep their mess away. Suddenly, a booming voice cuts through the chaos and commands everyone to halt immediately. The Duke of the White Lion steps forward and scolds 𝑺𝒑𝒏𝒕 for his lack of restraint. He threatens to file a formal grievance while the knight glares with pure disdain. He asks if the Duke truly believes that every single awakened holds the same level of power. As Arthur watches the sky, people suddenly look up in terror at meteors screaming down toward the city. Panic erupts as the citizens see the fireballs hurtling directly into the heart of the capital. Lady Elinor screams for everyone to run and find cover immediately from the incoming threat. But then, the meteor sprouts wings and stalls in midair before slamming into the earth with a massive explosion. The blast wave tosses people aside like dolls. The knights are hit, and the girl shields her face from the debris. The young apprentice is stunned for a moment, but a relieved smile soon breaks across her face. From the flames, our hero steps out unscathed. Grinning, the blonde girl starts crying out for her master. Our hero just mutters that next time he should land more gently, as the girl keeps shouting his name. The High Knight is stunned by the sight, wondering what he is seeing. Alice runs to her master while the knight questions the stranger. Watch closely as the knight stares at the young man, wondering who he is. The commander praises the hero for a job well done, but insists they talk privately, summoning a magical servant. He commands his spirit Uriel to silence the area, forming a blue barrier that cuts them off from the world. The young man realizes the leader's summon is a creature straight out of ancient fantasy legends. Samuel explains that because of the hero's immense talent, things have become incredibly complicated for the crown. The commander reveals that because of his public display, the entire realm now knows the extent of his power. He says the world will soon hear that an awakened from Albion just slayed a Tier 7 nightmare. The man rants about politics, but the hero cuts him off. He says he hates wasting time and demands they get to the point. The blue-haired agent explains they might have to officially reveal the young hero's true identity to the public. Alice looks at her master, her eyes filled with worry about the storm that is coming for him. Outside the barrier, crowds take pictures while our hero thinks to himself that this was bound to happen in a world of ants. The squad leader feels frustrated, knowing it is impossible to reason with a monster of that caliber. But to the man's shock, the hero simply agrees. Arms crossed, he says the council can announce whatever they want about him. The agent asks if he is sure, and the hero warns him not to make him say it twice. However, the young man warns with a piercing gaze that he does not want any trouble following him home. Trust me, you saw that coming. But then he fires a massive pillar into the sky, smiling as he says that should be enough. The two men are speechless, as he claims this display is his form of compensation for the mess. Before everyone's eyes, a massive purple crystal made of pure mana appears, floating silently in the air. Far away in another kingdom, a man calls for Lord Anderson, who is busy reading an urgent report. A breathless soldier rushes to Lord Anderson and reports that the entire operation has been called off. The Lord asks why, and the soldier explains that a Tier 7 beast has already been dealt with. The soldier continues his report while staring at a magic slate containing the most unbelievable news. He reveals that a new dragon-class warrior from Albion was the one to defeat the beast. 𝑺𝒑𝒏𝒕 is stunned, wondering what kind of man could do that. He says the hero dropped down with the monster's head and snatched the mana core right out of it. It is said that men have two reactions when they witness something they simply cannot comprehend. The first is acceptance, but the second is pure denial. With a smirk, the High Knight chooses the second path. He points at the group and starts screaming that none of this could possibly be real. The man claims they almost fooled him with their cheap illusions. The agent tries to explain, but the knight won't listen. The leader says he knows it is hard to swallow, but this is the absolute truth. Then he reveals that the man standing there is the newest dragon class awakened in the entire nation. And as you and I just saw, the furious hunter pushes the agent aside, screaming that a kid being a dragon class legend is a joke. He accuses the royal spies of faking a first-rank sovereign just to scare the local noble houses. Stick with me, this guy is about to regret every word. He claims the beast in the sky is a lie, making Lady Alara scream that her master is absolutely no fraud. She snaps back that without Lord Alaric, 𝒂𝒏𝒕 would be ash, so he better start showing some gratitude. But the arrogant knight just points his finger, barking at her for daring to interrupt a lord's talk. He sneers at our hero, mocking the royal spies for not teaching their servants how to show proper respect. Alaric just shrugs, calling the man's shouting nothing more than a mosquito's buzz. Alara stares, shocked by his sudden protective streak. Now, watch this. Lord Alaric releases a crushing aura, demanding to know how this fool dares to disrespect his loyal servant. His eyes flare blood red as he growls that he isn't a kind enough man to let this slide. The knight starts shaking as Alaric delivers a final warning: never speak ill of him or his people ever again. If he does, he'll face a fate far more agonizing than anything his tiny mind can even imagine. Facing a true monster, the knight collapses in terror while Alaric simply turns his back with a bored expression. He tells Alara it is time to depart, leaving her stunned by his sudden, commanding departure. She quickly obeys and follows her master's lead. The royal spies watch in silence while the arrogant knight cries in fear on the cold dirt. The lead agent sighs, rubbing his temples, unable to even guess where this chaotic path will lead them next. Soon, the bells ring. An official decree names Lord Alaric as the first holy knight sovereign of the kingdom. Before the king's court, an official herald declares that the Abyssal Rift incident was finally and completely resolved. In the shadows, the spy master confirms the decree is public. Ironically, Alaric's massive power might actually keep the peace. Alara beams with pride. Her master is now one of only 9 holy sovereigns in the entire known world. She knows that from this day forward, no noble house in the land would ever dare to challenge him. You and I saw this coming, right? The High Council admits this power was actually their greatest fear. Without a champion, 𝒂𝒏𝒕 was defenseless. The Oros Empire and the Western Isles tried to invade, but Alaric stopped them alone. But the spy master warns that enemy nations won't just sit back. They'll do anything to eliminate such a threat. Because of that, the crown suggests they need to secure as many powerful allies as they possibly can find. The Iron Wolf vanguard from the Western Isles wants an audience. Alaric isn't interested, shocking the agent with his cold refusal. He crushes his goblet, declaring that even the world's greatest warriors are all just the same in his eyes. He's just annoyed that his only day of peace in months has been totally ruined by these political games. He barks at the spy master to never disturb him with such trivial, boring matters ever again. Alara panics. How can she change his mind? Suddenly, a spark lights up her eyes. She has the perfect plan. She recalls a fleeting moment when her master showed a hint of genuine interest in a very specific challenge. She interrupts, asking if the Western Isles champion, Sir Anderson, the world's strongest knight, is actually part of that visiting team. The agent confirms it. Yes, the Iron Wolf vanguard is led by none other than the legendary warlord himself. He adds that Sir Anderson plans to attend this meeting in person, crossing the vast seas just for this. The warlord specifically asked to meet Lord Alaric in person. Hearing that, our hero's lips curl into a very small and dangerous smile. Alara grins. She knows the only thing that truly excites her master is a chance to face a worthy opponent. Alaric changes his tune instantly. He'll meet this mysterious foreigner and see if he's worth the hype. Down at the docks, a royal ship arrives carrying a true threat. 2 armored men disembark, mocking the grand welcome. One knight warns his partner to keep his cool, no causing unnecessary trouble in a foreign kingdom, this time around. Sir Anderson agrees. They're here to see a potential ally, so they'll play nice for now. But he reminds them that the High Council has given them very specific objectives for this secret mission. He commands his men to stay focused and keep their true power under control until the moment is right. The massive knight smashes his fist into his palm, grinning as he accepts the warlord's orders. As the Iron Wolves gather, Alara watches, sensing they plan to do exactly what they want when the time comes. Aboard their transport, the lead knight reminds them they aren't here for games. The High Council has given them two very distinct and important missions. First, they must recruit the new Holy Sovereign. That's only the start. Trust me, you and I are going to want to see this, because the second part of their secret plan is nothing less than testing the new sovereign's strength by force. All right, stick with me as we watch our hero tell the commander he'll handle the mission alone. But the blonde knight seems to have some doubts about what might happen during this meeting. He finishes his thought by warning that if his offer is refused, he'll crush our hero completely. Meanwhile, the protagonist simply sips his wine, complaining that the guests are late and he is bored. Suddenly, the young lord spots a report on his magic mirror about the legendary knight, Sir Ryan Anderson. The broadcast says he is the world's strongest and has conquered every enemy with the holy sword Excalibur. The dark-haired lord finally looks interested, thinking that this man might be one of the best around. At that exact moment, his blonde maid runs over to deliver a message of extreme importance. She announces that the Wolf Guard has arrived, and our hero responds with an incredibly dark, excited smile. He stands up and tells her to lead the way while she asks him to follow closely. The blonde is excited to meet her former idol, but quickly remembers her master is number one. The dark-haired man wonders if this world is still missing the secrets of forbidden body alchemy. He remembers dark rituals in the demon lands that made him more than a human. He fought gods there. As his servant guides him through the doors, the hero finds himself curious about one specific thing. He gives the girl a gentle pat on the head, thinking about how much strength she truly possesses. Behind those doors, the Wolf Guard is waiting, and their leader watches our hero's calm approach. The young lord walks silently toward the two men, standing near a massive stained glass window. With glowing eyes, the two stare each other down, and our hero wonders just how strong a pure human can be. Then the suited official approaches and greets the hero, saying it's good he finally arrived. He extends his hand and introduces himself as John Omen, the director of the Royal Intelligence Agency. Our hero just stares at the man's outstretched hand, without showing any hint of courtesy or respect. With a freezing stare, our hero completely ignores the handshake, leaving the director in total embarrassment. Now watch this. The Western Knights are just observing the scene with pure disdain and curiosity. The maid tries to apologize for her master's behavior, but the man says he already understands. The man in the suit smiles, realizing the young lord is clearly more interested in someone else. Then he turns around and formally introduces the elite Wolf Guard from the Great Western Empire. One member steps forward and introduces himself as Jensen, a high-ranking knight of the elite team. The servant is shocked by his perfect kingdom's tongue, wondering if it's a magic spell, but the girl is worried about her master's reaction. The hero just keeps staring at the man in front of him, who is currently judging him. Looking at that indifferent expression, the Western Knight thinks they are being treated like complete trash. He admits the protagonist was strong enough to slay that dragon from the previous battle. But the warrior gets irritated by the arrogance and calls the young lord a stuck-up brat. He pushes his comrade aside and grabs the hero's hand, forcing a handshake with his massive strength. He leans in, mocking him by asking if the kingdom lacks basic manners. The Western Knight squeezes hard, questioning if a simple handshake isn't just common knightly courtesy. The maid panics as the knight, Sir Brad, smiles, thinking he will crush this fake hero himself. But suddenly, his smirk vanishes. You see that look? That's the moment he feels true terror. At that moment, the young assistant lowers her head, already knowing the carnage that is coming next. During the grip, our hero begins to crush the knight's hand. Brad is shocked by the sudden pain. To try and break free, the strong man activates his signature magic called Great Explosion. The blonde girl cries out for the director to help before the entire room is blown apart. The other night, Jensen screams at his partner for being an idiot and starting a brawl. With a freezing glare, our hero simply commands one thing: disappear. Right then, the Western Knight's fireball starts to vanish completely. Brad is horrified, not understanding why his magic failed. The hero prepares to land a devastating blow. However, he hits nothing but air. Brad is warped away by a magic portal as a voice commands them to stop. The Western commander draws his holy blade, and trust me, you and I are in for an epic fight. All right, you and I are about to witness a clash between two of the most powerful knights currently alive. Duke Anderson apologizes for his man's rudeness, but notes our champion wasn't exactly being diplomatic either. Lieutenant Brad collapses, clutching his shattered hand. Now, the champion and the warlord lock eyes as the heavy tension in the air turns suffocating. The Duke orders Knight Jensen to drag the idiot away immediately. And Jensen obeys, leading his comrade away. The Chancellor thinks this will cause a big problem, while the girl gets excited for the confrontation. Lady Nora offers to lead the guards to a royal healer, and the Duke thanks her for the help. She leads the broken agents out, leaving our master alone in the room with the leader of the Western Empire. Anderson apologizes again, saying his man is stubborn, but surely he finally learned his lesson after that devastating strike. Our hero scoffs, saying he doesn't waste breath on the weak, telling the Duke to just get to the point. The warlord laughs, finding it amusing that the champion dismissed a rank knight as fodder so naturally. Still, he admits the boy is right. Merely blocking one punch caused all that damage to his top man. Now pay attention. This is the moment where the Duke realizes exactly how dangerous our hero really is. He finally makes his move, asking if the champion would consider joining the elite ranks of the Western Empire. Our hero declines immediately, and the Chancellor panics because the Western Empire is trying to steal his rank. The Duke is surprised, but the boy won't repeat himself. The champion then taunts him, claiming that deep down, the Duke actually desires a conflict between them. Releasing a crushing aura, he says they're both curious and suggests they settle it with a fight right now. With a fierce smile, the warlord accepts the challenge. Meanwhile, a healer treats Lieutenant Brad's mangled hand in another room. The wounded man fumes, cursing his partner for the humiliation, but Jensen snaps back, saying this happened because of Brad's own arrogance. Brad roars in anger, shouting that this Eastern Knight just spat on the greatest military team in the world. Young Nora watches the two knights bicker, wondering how one of them can stay so incredibly calm through this. Jensen just shrugs with total indifference, asking what the big deal is regarding this entire mess anyway. He reminds his partner that their opponent is a rank S, one of the strongest beings currently alive. For a man with that much power, arrogance isn't just a trait, it's practically a divine right. The knight continues, stating their team only holds power because of Duke Anderson, not because of Brad's skills. He tells Brad he's lucky to be here and to stay in his lane. The lieutenant grinds his teeth in silent fury. He stands up, screaming that he will never acknowledge that Easterner as his equal in this life or the next. The lieutenant insists a rank S couldn't possibly come from such a small kingdom. His partner tells him to stop. Brad shouts that if they had just one more rank S, they wouldn't have to endure this pathetic humiliation. You and I can see where this is going. Nora finally reaches her breaking point with this guy. With a cold gaze, she warns that if her master truly wished it, both of them would already be dead. The knights are stunned by her boldness. Brad begins to laugh hysterically, mockingly asking what this little brat thinks she is saying. He looms over her, asking with a sneer what a mere child could possibly understand about true power. Nora ignores his taunts, stating she knows exactly how powerful her master truly is compared to the rest of them. She declares with absolute confidence that the Eastern champion is the strongest human alive. Brad nearly doubles over in laughter. With a smug grin, he tells her to keep her illusions, because her reality is about to be shattered completely. Brad claims that at this very moment, Duke Anderson is putting an end to her master's misplaced pride. He continues his rant, promising that the warlord will crush that rank S once and for all this time. Back at the duel, the Duke draws his legendary blade. He points his beloved Excalibur directly at our champion. The Chancellor, watching from the sidelines, wonders how everything spiraled out of control so incredibly fast. He monitors the screens from the control room, suspecting this duel might be a secret test of the Empire's true military might. The man realizes that despite the friendly terms, this is still a clash between two godlike rank S warriors. The Chancellor just prays the entire building doesn't come crashing down once the fighting finally begins in earnest. The warlord pauses, looking confused. He asks our hero why he hasn't even bothered to draw a weapon yet. Our champion replies that he isn't a fool. He wouldn't dream of fighting someone like the Duke barehanded. So let's see if he's ready, because the system just confirmed the Duke has level 3 celestial swordsmanship. All right, you and I are about to see if a mage can outsword the greatest knight in the kingdom. He believes his blade skills are at tier 8 and wonders which steel to summon. Suddenly, a vault of magical swords manifests around our hero. The young knight recalls a legendary blade gifted by the Archduke of Shadows as a sign of his eternal fealty. Dark purple mana surges as he chooses the perfect weapon to end this brutal fight once and for all. Sir Anderson is stunned, realizing the boy just opened a void portal using a high-level spatial magic system. With a smirk, Alaric says he has been kept waiting too long. He grips a massive blade called the Blade of Thunder, worthy of his opponent. The Grand Knight grins back, thanking the boy for acknowledging the power of his holy sword, the legendary Excalibur. The blonde admits he thought the boy was a mere brawler, but clearly he possesses the talent of a true swordsman. With a smile, Alaric reveals his true class is a mage, but tells his opponent not to worry about that minor detail. He promises to fight using only pure swordsmanship. This enrages the Western leader, who sees the boy's words as nothing but pure arrogance. Refusing to waste another second, the Grand Knight readies his weapon, his knuckles turning white as he grips the hilt. He roars that he will make Alaric regret every word as he launches himself with full force toward the protagonist. Anderson's blade unleashes a colossal wave of energy that advances forward, obliterating everything in its path with ease. But Alaric effortlessly leaps clear. Now watch this. The High Commander realizes just how insane this power really is. The shockwave causes total devastation at the site, and the commander panics over the absolute destruction of the arena. He realizes a Tier 7 enemy would have been vaporized instantly by such a peak-level, legendary technique. Yet, floating there completely unharmed, Alaric actually praises the attack. The blonde is in total disbelief that the boy dodged his strike. Realizing that Alaric moved like a ghost, while the blow landed right where he stood. The Grand Knight flies into a rage, swearing he will wipe that smug smile off the boy's arrogant face. Without a moment of hesitation, the Western leader charges back in with a flurry of blindingly fast, deadly attacks. Our hero seems to be enjoying the fight, praising his opponent's grit before deciding it is time to take things to another level. In that instant, the Western Knight feels a bone-chilling, dangerous aura radiating from the calm protagonist. With a blur of motion, Alaric lunges at Sir Anderson, leaving a crimson trail cutting through the cold air. The warlord is slammed violently into the dirt, screaming in pure agony from the sheer force of the impact. The hit is so brutal that Anderson is left shattered. Alaric stares him down, thinking humanity's strongest can't possibly give up now. He truly hopes the fight does not end here, and that the blonde knight can still stand to continue the battle. You and I can see it. The Grand Knight is shaken, finally realizing the terrifying strength of his opponent. His mind flashes back to a nightmare foe he once faced in the past called the Bone Collector. We see the knight battling a horrific beast. The monster was Tier 5, with bones so dense that the battlefield became a river of blood. It was only after slaying that beast that he reached Paragon rank and forged his legendary sword, Excalibur. Back in the present, the Western leader declares that his holy blade is completely and utterly indestructible. He believes that as the master of such a weapon, he cannot be broken either. He slowly retrieves his sword from the ground. Alaric watches with a grin, telling him it is a beautiful sight to see such unwavering resolve in a warrior. I know what you're thinking. How can this get any crazier? Well, watch closely because everything is about to change. He vows to fight with the intent to kill, and Alaric simply responds that he is looking forward to the challenge. Meanwhile, the commander panics, begging them to stop as the Grand Knight invokes his ultimate, forbidden skill, Massacre. His weapon begins to glow with a blinding light. Alaric feels the earth-shaking vibrations and finds the whole thing very interesting. The Western Knight knows his ability does far more than just make the blade vibrate with power. He lets loose a devastating blow that triggers a massive, blinding explosion of pure white energy across the site. Without giving our hero a chance to breathe, the blonde charges forward with godlike speed. But Alaric just smiles, craving even more power. With a confident look, he tells his opponent to show him his true abilities. In the tower, the commander is in despair, saying this is not a duel anymore. He fears that if someone falls, it will spark a war. He shouts for his knights to intervene. The mage and girl agree, but the scholar explains that at Paragon rank, only they can stop each other. And that's where we leave it. Trust me, you're going to want to see how this legendary duel ends. Stick with me here, because we're about to witness a legendary clash between two powerhouse knights. Lady Seraphina is sure Sir Alistair will be careful not to trash the citadel, but right then, boom, a massive blast rocks the tower. The red-haired noble looks totally embarrassed, realizing she might have seriously misjudged the young man's restraint. Archmage Valerius figures Alistair has always protected the kingdom of Avalon, so it was a fair guess to make. Seraphina admits her real worry is for Lord Barrett. Back in the fray, the great commander looks actually terrified. Alistair swings, carving a red arc of light through the air. As he surveys the wreckage, the Archmage fears the building will collapse. The dark-haired knight is just getting started. He wants to see Barrett's true strength. But the foundations are giving way. Meanwhile, the Western commander tells himself that no one can ever surpass his power. He yells that Alistair isn't special and lunges forward for a lethal, desperate stab. Now, watch this part closely. Alistair's reaction is just on another level compared to his rival. Realizing the commoners in the tower are in danger, he instantly flickers through the shadows to the other side of the room. Barrett spins around, startled by his speed, and swings wild. But Alistair, he just stands there, perfectly calm, holding his blade. With a grim stare, he asserts that this isn't the right place to settle their score. The tension is unbearable. The commander feels a crushing aura coming off the boy, and for the first time, he is absolutely petrified. In that moment, the warlord realizes he's in mortal danger and becomes hyper-alert to every movement. Alistair's red energy surges toward him like a tidal wave. Barrett wonders if he's actually feeling fear from just one blow. He cannot believe that he, the strongest man in the world, is actually trembling during this fight. He screams that there is no way this can be true and refuses to accept the reality of it. He charges back in with a massive wind attack, but Alistair stops the blow using a mysterious purple energy. The commander is paralyzed with shock. He is completely lost as to what just happened to him. Suddenly, his hand gets trapped inside a dark void rift. He screams in agony, unable to comprehend this terrifying power. Alistair tells him arrogance is a luxury for the truly strong. He calls the commander a weakling playing protector. The protagonist adds that his rival cannot even protect himself from this single move. And yeah, I know what you're thinking. It's time for the smackdown. Watch as he gets slammed into the floor. Our hero stands over the broken body of the fallen commander, who has finally been defeated. With a cold, victorious smile, Alistair reveals the name of that move. It was the back smash. Miles away, the ground shakes from the impact, and people in the streets look toward the citadel in terror. Somewhere else, a noble and a blonde girl feel the tremor too. The man smiles, telling her the real dance has begun. He starts taunting the young woman with a smirk, telling her to say her goodbyes because Barrett is currently pulverizing her master. He claims the boy is on his knees begging for life. But Alara snaps. She is not about to sit there and listen to this arrogant fool insult her master. The noble is stunned by the raw energy coming off her, while his partner just watches in surprise. Silas realizes she's strong for a rank 2 knight. Cedric shouts, asking if she really wants to fight, but his partner is intrigued. The girl responds with a cold yes, believing it is her right to stand her ground in this situation. In that moment, she remembers her master's advice, to always be strong and imposing regardless of the enemy. He told her never to underestimate an opponent, but also to never back down from a challenge. Back in the present, Alara summons a massive blade and warns the man he is going to regret this. Cedric loses it. He cannot believe a little girl is actually challenging him and starts screaming for his colleague to help. Silas just tells him to shut up and act with some dignity for once in his life. Cedric tries to agree, but the blonde girl doesn't waste any time and strikes from behind. Just as she is about to land the hit, a blue aura erupts. She screams as the energy halts her blade. Silas asks if she's really that mad. He offers an apology for Cedric's rudeness and asks her to stop the fight. But she's furious. She asks why she should stop when that loudmouth was the one who started this whole thing. He dragged her master's name through the dirt and didn't even have the decency to apologize for it. So what do you and I take from this? Never insult a master in front of his student, because she's ending this now. All right, stick with me, because this battle is about to reach a whole new level of insane. With a roar, the man erupts in a surge of blue mana and prepares to duel the girl. The battle ignites as she charges headfirst. Meanwhile, back at the arena, our hero arrives on the scene, hauling the broken body of the Western Empire's greatest knight over his shoulder. He tosses the blonde commander onto the cold stones. The hero warns them he is alive, but they better find a medic before it is too late. The High Chancellor and his guards breathe a sigh of relief, thankful their champion isn't dead yet. They can't believe it. Sir Alaric actually brought down the most powerful warrior in the entire world. The Chancellor realizes that with a man this strong, their kingdom could finally rule over all others. Obsessed with power, he claims they can finally crush the great Eastern Kingdom and the Western Empire. But the hero cuts him off with a chilling glare, telling him to stop. He fought for his own interest, not for their pathetic political games. He delivers a final, brutal warning. Do not ever try to use him for your own selfish gain. The young knight tells them to leave him alone and turns his back on the desperate Chancellor. Back in the hallway, our hero pauses, sensing something is very wrong at the sight of the other battle. He looks up and sees the entire ceiling is dripping with massive, lethal spikes of jagged ice. Lady Alara is gasping for air, completely exhausted, but she refuses to back down while Sir Cedric mocks her skills. Watching from the side, Sir Julian realizes this girl is far more dangerous than she looks. Now watch this carefully. Cedric summons a massive frost circle, vowing to trap the girl in a tomb of ice. Dozens of lethal ice shards fly at the girl as she charges. Cedric shouts a command, and the freezing magic catches her completely off guard. Frost creeps over her skin. She tries to fight through it, clutching her blade with trembling hands. But she cries out in agony, as the sheer weight of the ice completely paralyses her body. Cedric laughs at her suffering, asking how it feels to be frozen solid. He mocks her failed justice while she glares back with pure, helpless rage. In her mind, she begs her master for forgiveness. She failed to punish the men who insulted his name. Battered and broken, she finally realizes there is no way for her to win this fight against Cedric. Seeing the overkill, Julian tells his partner to stop before they end up causing a massive diplomatic disaster. Suddenly, the ice shatters like glass. Before anyone can blink, a mysterious hand reaches out from the shadows and grabs Cedric by the throat. And yeah, you and I both knew he was coming. Alaric is back, and his expression is absolutely terrifying. The girl and Julian are frozen in shock, stunned to see the master arrive so suddenly at the scene. With eyes glowing blood red, he reflects the girl's broken face. Cedric's partner screams in terror, calling our hero a monster, but the rage is only beginning. But Alaric doesn't hear a word. He just squeezes the knight's face harder, his grip like iron. Then, with one brutal twist, he slams the man's body into the stone floor with bone-shattering force. His red eyes burn with a lethal light. It is clear that he is not here to play games. A massive blast of red mana detonates in the hall. He snarls in fury, asking how they dared to touch something that belongs to him. He slowly turns his gaze to the other knight and asks if he was involved too. Julian is trembling. He can't understand how this man defeated the legendary Lord Thorn. Seething, Alaric repeats that they dared to hurt his own. He promises they will pay for this with their lives, leaving the officer in pure shock. But before he can strike again, someone suddenly leaps in front of the shaking knight. It was Alara. She stands in his way, telling him she is fine just to stop the slaughter. The young woman looks at him with determination, even as his eyes still flicker with murderous intent. Seeing his student safe, the hero's rage finally begins to fade. The girl collapses into his arms, her body still shivering from the ice. With tears in her eyes, she tries to apologize, but he gently tells her that's enough. The master pulls her close, whispering that she did well and that he's here to protect her now. A golden light erupts from his hand, mending her flesh and washing away the cold. She is stunned as the energy flows through her and her wounds vanish. The hero turns back to the knight and tells him the girl just saved both of their lives. Cradling his apprentice, he orders them to flee the kingdom before he decides to finish what he started. Left alone, the knight realizes they didn't just lose to a man, they lost everything to a devil. So that's how the Fenrir Knights returned. But trust me, you and I are just getting started with this mystery. Stick with me. We start with Lord Sterling looking suspicious after meeting our hero. He is complaining about not getting to talk to the young man first. The young lord sits on the sofa, deep in thought as he plans his next move. With a smirk, he says he cannot play dumb anymore and decides to act. Meanwhile, Lady Isolde says they must find him. Elsewhere, a red-haired noblewoman tells the hero it is finally time for him to start making his move. She seems quite annoyed by the situation, while a film plays in the room. As Julian laughs, the hero calls it boring. Alina wonders why they just moved, especially since Serafina already wants them to pack up and leave again. The lady feels awkward and lets out a nervous laugh, not knowing what to say. Outside, a mob of reporters and cameras wait for news. She explains that the hero's presence here is now public knowledge. She reminds him he wanted peace and suggests a private, secret island just for him. With pure joy, the girl promises a new mansion and begs him to see it. The hero ponders on the couch, considering her offer. Meanwhile, the blonde apprentice gets incredibly excited while her master looks on with a surprised expression. The apprentice says she always dreamed of island life, while he asks if she is interested. Realizing she spoke out of turn, the young girl quickly offers a sincere apology. The redhead panics, fearing she has offended the Lord and won't leave alive. But our hero accepts the offer, leaving her absolutely stunned by his decision. Then the protagonist stands up and orders everyone to move to their new home. Now watch this. They arrive at a paradise island with a massive mansion. You and I are seeing their brand new home for the first time. The apprentice is stunned and says the island they will live on is gorgeous. Serafina explains they purchased the land and built a completely private resort. She says the place has everything, and it all belongs to the hero. Arthur looks at the island and tells the girl the place is actually not bad. Serafina feels relieved he likes it. She then mentions that she has some important news to share with the group. The lady pulls out a letter, explaining a request for help from the Western Empire. In the letter, The Empire apologizes and proposes a grand alliance for defense. She explains that if a powerful foe appears, both nations will support each other. Also, if the young man accepts their missions, all his expenses will be covered. The details will come later, but the final choice is entirely up to our hero. Arthur says he does not care about the Western Empire, but Alina still seems annoyed. He thinks defeating a foe like Duke Blackwood could be quite fun. With a grin, Arthur says it sounds like fun and accepts the alliance. You saw that, right? Even Serafina is confused as he confirms the agreement. Relieved, the redhead thanks him and finally seems to be much more at peace. Next, she suggests forming a new team of knights with him as the leader. The two talk while Alina listens in complete shock. The young man thinks that competing with others will help his apprentice grow much stronger. He agrees to form the team, but insists on choosing every member himself. The woman is thrilled and says a boat is ready to take them. Alina says it is a dream come true, and the hero says he is ready. The young girl complains that they should have built a bridge to walk across. But the hero says it is not needed, leaving her confused. In a sudden move, the master grabs her and leaps toward the distant island. Serafina is stunned by the sight, watching the two fly off in total disbelief. Soaring through the sky, the hero carries his apprentice toward their brand new luxury mansion. Meanwhile, on the island, a butler named Barnaby hurries the staff for the arrival. Suddenly, he hears a strange sound and looks up, completely puzzled. Then, our hero majestically lands with the girl in his arms, shocking everyone present. With eyes full of wonder, the young girl thanks her master for the flight. The staff are left speechless, while the apprentice gets excited about their new palace. Seeing their shock, Arthur asks if they arrived too early. Barnaby quickly recovers and informs the group that they had actually been waiting for his arrival. The man introduces himself as Barnaby, manager of the estate, promising the finest service. With a slight grin, the hero approves of the butler's professional attitude. With that, Barnaby invites them inside the mansion to see all the facilities. The young lady is stunned by the interior, saying it looks like a 5-star hotel. The interior looks decent, but he wants more. Trust me, you and I need to see what's next. Lord Arthur challenges his steward to show their true worth. The head of the house presents his finest knights and chefs, promising their new master absolute satisfaction. Now, you and I are going to watch as Arthur enjoys a massive feast and some games. Even his young squire, Alina, gets in on the fun, playing games on the manor grounds with the household staff. While the hero relaxes on a sund, the steward asks if everything is perfect. Checking his device, the young man admits this noble life is actually pretty sweet. Suddenly, a message pings on his screen. With a sly grin, he realizes that things are finally about to get interesting for him. Without warning, a massive mechanical vessel descends from the clouds and touches down on the estate lawn. Arthur and Alina look up to see who has arrived. From the mechanical vessel descends a man in a fine coat who says it has been a long time. He thanks Arthur for accepting the invitation, while the young girl offers a polite, respectful bow. The visitor then introduces a companion, Lady Sarah, the kingdom's newest Grade A warrior. Now pay attention, because this is where the vibe shifts. The newcomer glares at Arthur, doubting if he is truly the legendary knight from all the rumors. She watches him take a casual drink, wondering if this lazy man is really a famous Grade S warrior. Disappointed, she scoffs at the sight. In her head, she calls him a total bum and questions why such a small girl is even by his side. Alina immediately calls her out, saying it is rude not to show respect, but the woman snaps back, telling the child to stay out of grown-up business. Furious, the blonde retorts that she is no child. Sarah just complains to her partner, saying she wanted to meet a real warrior, not this trash. Getting bored, Arthur tells them both to leave if they are just going to waste his time. The diplomat apologizes, calling her young and naive, but the hero actually finds her attitude quite entertaining. He fixes his gaze on her, noting that as a Grade A fighter, she certainly has the right to be arrogant. As Sarah looks confused, he adds that if she is truly powerful, she should at least recognize the massive gap in strength between them. With a terrifying, murderous look, he warns her that if an ant bites a giant, it will be crushed. The girl freezes, paralyzed by an overwhelming pressure unlike anything she has ever felt before. Arthur just scoffs, looking down at her with pure disdain. He decides to let it slide for now, watching her struggle to breathe from a distance. Gasping for air, the woman realizes that was a warning. She was just inches away from death. The visitor tries to apologize again, but the hero says it is fine. Honestly, he is actually intrigued. Arthur orders the woman to follow him, catching her off guard. He then calls for Alina, who asks in surprise if she should join too. Once outside, the master tells the two women he wants to see exactly what they can do. The blonde squire draws her blades, huffing that she hates being treated like a helpless little kid. Confidently, she claims she is strong enough to stand by her master. Sarah just smiles and tells the girl to be careful. Arthur tells them to fight with everything they have. Let's see who the strongest really is. The redhead erupts with a crimson aura, ready for war. At that moment, the Grade A warrior activates her secret ability to mirror powers. Watching the display, the hero grins. You and I know these two are about to go all out. Sarah prepares her assault, revealing her rare ability to shapeshift her entire body. Alina stares with wide eyes, unable to believe her sight. Out of the dark smoke, a massive demonic silhouette begins to rise. Watching from the sidelines, Sarah's partner admits even he has never seen her tap into this kind of power before. Then, the woman reveals her ultimate form, transforming into a terrifying red draconic beast. With a smirk, Arthur analyzes the skill. He checks her stats and realizes her base attributes are actually nothing special. The dark-haired man notes that this transformation ability manifests differently for every single person. Still, he admits the result is impressive. The master never expected her to change into such a high-level, ancient creature. Completely stunned, his disciple can barely even manage to speak a word. She stares at the creature's jagged horns as a memory flashes back. Alina recognizes this monster as the Red Fiend from the Academy Rift. Seeing her reaction, Arthur smiles. It looks like an old ghost has returned to haunt them. He turns to the young girl with his swords ready, asking what her next move will be. The beast mocks the girl, asking why she is standing there shaking. She taunts her, asking if she is still scared of the enemy that once broke her. But the girl grips her sword tightly and firmly declares that she isn't afraid of anything anymore. With a fierce look, Alina says this is the moment you and I finally wanted. All right, you and I are about to watch a girl turn her grief into pure, blue-hot vengeance. The monster is stunned as the young knight charges without a second thought, her holy blade glowing with a blinding, intense light as she dives straight in. The impact of their clash is so massive, the entire island fortress begins to shake to its core. Inside the manor, the knights look up in terror, paralyzed by the sheer power of the tremors. One servant frantically asks the steward if the stone walls will hold before everything comes crashing down. Calmly, the steward says the masonry can take it, and they better get used to the chaos. He says these fights will be happening quite often now. Even in her beast form, the lady is shocked by the speed and raw power of her tiny opponent. She conjures a sphere of dark magic, confident she can stop the girl's momentum right in its tracks. Drawing on her cursed power, the redhead fires a crimson blast toward her foe. But Alara manages a graceful, agile dodge, keeping her focus locked on the duel. Using that momentum, the squire spins through the air, coming down hard with both of her enchanted swords. But the beast dodges, landing a brutal spinning kick that sends the young knight crashing into the dirt with bone-shattering force. Giving her zero time to recover, Scarlet flies forward like a crimson streak, aiming to finish the job. The two trade a flurry of lightning-fast strikes in a blinding display of magic, steel and sparks. The lady gathers a fresh ball of red energy, blasting her rival and sending her soaring into the sky. Alara screams in pain as the blast tears into her. Scarlet laughs, telling her to watch out while prepping another attack. Without missing a beat, the transformed lady unleashes an even more devastating wave of power at her rival. Watching from the sidelines, Sir Alaric is impressed, noting she used that exact same skill before. Now pay attention here. A massive wave of red energy swallows the defenseless girl whole. It explodes with devastating force, leaving nothing but a thick cloud of dust. While the butler stands there stunned, our hero Alaric actually looks like he is enjoying the whole show. Panting, the adversary mocks her for underestimating a rank a warrior, but then she looks up, totally confused by what she sees. The apprentice is completely unharmed, using the enemy's own head as a springboard to launch back into the air. In one smooth motion, she levels her blade for the final, decisive strike. The two lock eyes with intense gazes as the sword closes in on its target. Seeing the potential, the master realizes something special is happening, and a small, knowing smile crosses his face. Then, with a sudden shout, he commands that the duel is over right now. The blade stops inches from Scarlet's throat. Alaric steps in, declaring that this training session has finally reached its limit. The student bows to her master, while her opponent just collapses on the ground, breathless and defeated. Shifting back to her human form, Scarlet can't believe her superior status didn't save her from this loss. Alaric walks over and tilts his student's chin with an approving look. The woman admits her defeat was caused by the overwhelming difference in experience between them. She realizes that under his wing, she could become unstoppable, and tries to grab the young man's attention. But the hero shuts her down before she even starts, leaving the poor girl in a state of total shock. He pats his student on the head, comparing the redhead to a newborn baby taking its first shaky steps. He flat out refuses to train her, leaving the woman standing there feeling completely disappointed and rejected. But you and I saw this coming, right? Alaric admits she is a decent opponent and offers her one chance. The girl is stunned, hardly believing what she just heard. The protagonist then turns to the official and asks if he has noticed the looming shadow of danger yet. The man is confused until his communication crystal rings. He answers it, his expression turning deadly serious in a second. On the other side, a panicked voice screams that the great city of Oakhaven has been completely wiped out. High above, several Dragon Corps ships are already racing toward the disaster site at maximum speed. Inside one cabin, our hero and his team sit in a private air galley. Alara asks if flying alone wouldn't be faster. The young man just smirks, asking if she runs everywhere instead of using a carriage like a normal person. The other girl asks why he isn't more worried, considering they are literally flying into a death trap. At that moment, the man in the suit stands up with an enchanted slate to explain the dire situation. An unknown demonic rift opened in Oakhaven an hour ago. The hologram shows a city that has been totally annihilated. The girl is paralyzed as he reveals that every elite knight in the region has already been confirmed dead. The official explains the nightmare that crawled out of the rift, a level 8 colossus. The woman is absolutely terrified. So you and I are left wondering, can they survive this level 8 threat? We are about to find out. All right, you and I are about to see if these knights can actually survive the strongest monster in the kingdom. The apprentice smiles, admitting it is terrifying, but saving the innocent makes every single drop of fear worth it. With a look of pure steel, the girl tells her friend to stay calm. She points to their commander, their ultimate shield in this battle. Sir Alistair realizes this nightmare is far more dangerous than any dragon he has ever hunted before in his life. Meanwhile, inside the capital city, a giant spider horror watches the entire world burn into absolute ash and ruin. The beast feasted on a terrified survivor among the city wreckage. High above in the airship, the pilot announces they are 5 minutes away from their destination. Upon reaching the drop site, the signal echoes for every knight to prepare for their descent into the heat of battle. Standing with absolute resolve, our hero declares that he will be the first one to face the darkness alone. Now watch this. Our hero doesn't even wait for a signal before leaping from the ship into certain danger. He plummets through the clouds, wings catching the gale. Lady Clara asks the young recruit if her descent magic is finally ready. The recruit admits she forgot, earning a sharp scold since they practiced this every single day back at the academy. Lady Clara helps the girls secure her flight harness for the terrifying drop. Elara wonders if her nerves will break her, or if she can actually be useful once the steel starts clashing. Her friend reassures her, saying she is stronger than she knows. The newly awakened girl stares at her mentor in wide-eyed shock. She offers a tiny, blushing thank you, a soft smile finally breaking through all that paralyzing fear. Clara just gives a smug grin, boasting that she is obviously the most powerful warrior in the entire sky right now. They stand at the open hatch as the countdown begins. The girl shuts her eyes tight, sweating as the final seconds tick away. But at 3, Lady Clara simply shoves her friend out into the air without a shred of mercy. A scream of pure terror rips through the sky as they fall together, wind whipping through their long hair during the descent. Near the stone streets, Alistair unfurls his wings and surveys the absolute devastation brought upon the once great city. With a cold, distant gaze, the young man pays no mind to the frantic screaming of his plummeting companions. He stares down the massive spider god. Floating high, the protagonist opens a void rift to pull his legendary weapon. Drawing his blade, he readies his stance, promising to give this monster a greeting it will never live to forget. The master, then, releases a devastating surge of pure energy toward the massive creature. On the ground, a noblewoman named Seraphina cowers in terror, staring into the many eyes of the beast she calls a monster. She closes her eyes, accepting her grim fate, just as the hero's light begins to descend from the sky. You and I both know that look. That's the face of someone who just saw a miracle falling. The energy explodes against the beast, shielding her and kicking up a massive cloud of gray dust and debris. In midair, Clara tells her friend to activate their enchanted boots. She draws her twin blades from the rift, ready for the kill. She slams down in front of the noble, crossing her swords to block the path of the giant monster. Thus, she shields the purple-haired lady from the crushing pressure of the blast, aimed directly at the spider's head. Turning back, Clara asks if she is unharmed. She introduces herself, stating they are the knights sent from the capital of 𝒆𝒍𝒍 to save them. However, the spider horror seems completely unfazed by the massive energy strike. Sir Alistair looks on, slightly puzzled that his initial strike failed to tear through the monster's hide as he intended. He calls the beast a truly hideous anomaly, admitting with a sharp smile that he has never faced such a creature. Suddenly, a shimmering status window appears, revealing the terrifying name and divine traits of this massive, dark entity. The screen also explains the beast arrived here through a strange, ancient blood contract. With a confident smirk, the hero floats higher, asking if this thing is really nothing more than a pathetic, exiled god. But the protagonist reveals that he is also an exiled god, just like his monstrous opponent. Gripping his sword, the dark-haired warrior prepares to truly test the limits of his enemy. With a wild, excited grin, he lunges forward, eager to see exactly how much pain this godlike creature can actually endure. He dives at blinding speed, staring straight into the many crimson eyes of his foe. With a heavy swing, the boy delivers a blow that shatters the air itself, creating an explosion that buries the city in dust. As the shockwave hits, someone screams a warning while the noblewoman watches the earth-shattering power with a look of pure, frozen shock. And that's where we leave it. Trust me, you'll want to see the fallout of this god-tier clash. The knights watch the chaos with grim focus, while Koharu stands frozen in utter shock. With a shaking voice, the purple-haired lady gasps, asking what that monster even is. Stick with me, you and I are about to see a god-tier clash. As the spider is swarmed, the apprentice reveals that the winged warrior is her master. Confused, the girl asks if that soaring awakened isn't actually an enemy from the abyss. The young knight smiles, asking if her lord isn't magnificent, leaving the Japanese noblewoman completely speechless. She tells her not to fear the beast. Her master will slay this titan alone. But when help is offered, Koharu snaps back. Standing tall, she sneers that this apprentice is no better than a low-rank commoner from some failing house. She screams that she needs no help from them and demands they stay out of her way. Suddenly, the transformed redhead calls her ungrateful to the heroes who just saved her. The creature keeps mocking her, saying she is just as pathetic as her golden-haired friend. But the beast warns they should stop bickering. Both girls suddenly freeze as they feel something massive and ancient looming right over their heads. That titanic spider was still standing, completely unfazed by the heroes' relentless storm of attacks. A divine window names the beast as young 𝒒𝒒𝒂𝒅𝒆𝒔, and it lets out a roar. The ladies draw their steel, facing the nightmare with dread. Nori agrees she wants to teach this girl respect. But right now, it is a fight for survival. The spider screeches, preparing to launch its next assault. The master dives from the clouds, hurtling like a meteor toward the beast. At that moment, the giant horror spits a massive, sticky web to snatch him from midair. Now pay attention because this looks bad. The hero is caught, completely bound by the enemy's silk. Yet, even as he is tangled, our boy doesn't look worried at all. The creature yanks the web with monstrous strength, slamming the hero toward the earth. He hits the ground with a thunderous explosion, sending a massive wall of dust skyrocketing. Through the thick haze, he cuts himself free, cursing the monster as an annoying pest. He grips his blade, but realizes steel won't bite into this thing's hide. Our hero admits that at this rate, a standard victory is simply off the table. The spider screeches in triumph, sure that it has finally crushed its tiny human fly. But with eyes burning crimson, the master grins, knowing exactly how to end this little game. You and I are finally seeing it, his ultimate power. A dark aura explodes as he prepares to reveal his true form for the first time in this world. He transforms into a demonic lord with wicked horns, facing the anomaly with pure malice. A violent gale erupts before the multi-eyed horror. The two women watch in awe, stunned by the pressure. Seizing the beast's massive leg, the demon lord laughs. If this spider truly is a god, then it must survive him. With razor-sharp talons, the anomaly lunges, trying to rip the hero's heart out. The hero unfurls his blood-red wings and readies a devastating counterblow. He lunges, shattering the ground beneath him and smashing the creature's jaw so hard it goes flying into the air. The beast crashes down, landing on its back. Desperate, it sprays a frantic barrage of webs at him. But the master is a blur of speed, dancing through the lethal silk. Smiling, he wonders if this monster can handle his real strength. Then, a blur of lightning-fast punches rains down. Seeing his bare fists aren't enough, he pauses to study the spider's movements. He admits its hide is impressive, but wonders if those many eyes can take the heat of his next strike. With lethal intent, he drives a fist straight into the spider god's eye, unleashing a shockwave of raw energy. The creature erupts into a high-pitched, bone-chilling scream of agony. The women clutch their ears as the sound tears through them. Above, the hero watches his handiwork. Seizing the opening, the protagonist drops like a falcon onto the beast. In one brutal motion, the demon lord rips a massive leg clean off. He grins. Every monster has a breaking point, doesn't it? He notes its tough armor, but wants to see if it survives being impaled by its own limb. He drives the severed leg down like a holy stake into the monster's heart. He looks satisfied, but suddenly, a strange purple mist begins to leak from the beast. Trust me, you and I aren't done yet. More smoke pours out as the beast screams again, forcing the hero to guard his face. Stick with me. Lord Alistair is in trouble as that vile purple mist starts choking the life out of him. He grits his teeth, realizing this isn't some common venom. This stuff is actually a massive problem. The beast brags about its void poison, but his loyal squire refuses to watch her master suffer and leaps into the fray. She lunges at the toxic monster, swinging her heavy blade with everything she has. The Eastern princess watches on, pride stinging as she refuses to let her kingdom be seen as weak for accepting help from outsiders. Seeing an opening, she signals the royal guard to move in immediately. The blonde warrior delivers a crushing strike, smashing right into the airborne beast with sheer force. Suddenly, Alistair roars for his student to retreat immediately, while she glances back at her confused, red-haired knight in a state of total panic. Meanwhile, the spider terror keeps flooding the battlefield with rot, leaving the transformed noblewoman gasping in shock as the venom spreads. She snaps that she should have warned her sooner as they both scramble to escape the toxic clouds. The Eastern princess freezes in terror, asking what is going on since she has not even cast a spell yet. Nora grabs her, hauling the princess over her shoulder while they bolt through the toxic mist. She warns that if she wants to live, she must keep running. With a grim expression, the Lord Commander commands his squire to evacuate the area at once. Now, pay attention. He warns that this divine venom is so potent it could melt flesh right off the bone. But our hero isn't backing down. He reaches deep into a shimmering portal and pulls out a hand wreathed in roaring, magical flames. Surrounded by fire, he mocks the beast, asking if its puny poison can survive a dragon's breath. The fire erupts into a massive cyclone, roaring toward the monster. Seeing this power, the giant aberration actually starts to shrink back in terror. Alistair laughs at the creature for daring to call itself a deity. He flies straight at his foe, calling it a total disappointment as he readies the final blow. The winged knight unleashes a devastating blast of holy golden fire directly at the monster. But the spider doesn't flinch, charging up a massive sphere of dark purple energy to strike back just as Alistair's golden fire closes in. The spider god fires. A beam of purple light cuts straight through the flames, heading right for the winged hero. That dark energy tears through the fire and impales Alistair's body while he's still in midair. Blood sprays as he coughs, while his squire screams out in absolute horror at the sight. Nora cries out his name as she watches her master get skewered by those lethal energy spikes. Alistair just smirks, noting the beast used a soul-burning venom to kill him. He admits it's a divine toxin that would kill almost any mortal. Let's pause for a second. Did the monster really think this would work? Alistair says he's its worst nightmare. He warns the beast that its venom is useless as his chest begins to glow with light. He calmly pulls the poison stakes out of his body. He reveals he carries the royal ichor in his veins, allowing him to neutralize any toxin with his power. The spider god is absolutely stunned, unable to believe its ultimate attack just failed. Now the winged warrior readies a counterstrike that is going to hurt. He rockets toward the anomaly at blinding speed to finish this fight. He strikes the monster with a titanic blow that triggers a massive explosion. His squire smiles with pride, while the red-haired knight stands there, completely shaken by such overwhelming power. Standing over his broken foe, Alistair declares that it is finally time to put an end to this. In his true demonic form, he readies the finishing move. With terrifying speed, he proceeds to rip every single leg right off that giant spider. The princess watches in total silence, her mind unable to process the sheer brutality of the scene. The beast howls in agony, thrashing wildly under the relentless assault of the winged lord. The giant aberration is finally done, crashing headfirst onto the stone road. Alistair looks down at the wreckage, looking calm and very satisfied. He tosses the severed spider, legs to the ground like they're nothing but trash. He lands softly on the monster's skull, walking right between its massive, dead eyes. Charging a sphere of raw energy, he admits the fight was actually quite fun, but tells the beast it's time to die before blasting its skull into pieces. With one last bang, the spider detonates, and the long battle finally comes to a close. Suddenly, a glowing pink soul crystal drops from the remains. He picks it up, looking confused, since only the highest tier of demons leave behind power cores. He muses that while a minor dragon might drop a gem, this thing feels much heavier. So what do you and I take from this? That beast was a fallen god. Perfection does not leave such crystals. Arthur realizes this beast's state is tied to a pact with a legendary power. He knows this is serious, while his knight looks on with a grim expression. Lady Alina and her squire find themselves cornered by the Eastern Knights. Stick with me, because this betrayal is about to get incredibly dark. The Eastern commander sneers that if the world knows a smaller kingdom saved them, their glory is ruined. Now, Alina must die. Alina is fuming, remembering how they begged for help when the monsters were slaughtering them. She asks if they truly mean to kill the very people who saved their lives. Catherine just smirks, claiming it is not betrayal if they were never truly allies anyway. The young squire is outraged that they came to defend this land and now face execution. The commander screams that she is an elite knight, simply protecting the honor of her realm. She laments their interference and orders them to vanish forever. Purple light spears are aimed directly at our two heroines as the atmosphere grows heavy. Without that S-rank grandmaster around, she believes they can easily slaughter both of the women. Now pay attention here. Watch what happens when a true monster arrives. Arthur slams down, shattering the earth and sending debris flying everywhere. The Eastern squad recoils in shock, shielding their eyes from the massive impact. Catherine freezes in terror, unable to process what just landed. Arthur stands there, calm and cold, asking exactly what is going on with this mess. He warns them he will end this quickly, as their pathetic behavior has deeply offended him. Catherine is seething, thinking that if the hero had arrived a minute later, they would have won. Alina explains everything simply. They saved these men, but the debt was paid with steel. Now that they feel humiliated by being rescued, they want to kill every witness to their shame. You and I both know Arthur doesn't play around. With glowing eyes, he commands them to stop, and an invisible force hammers the entire squad into the dirt. They struggle, terrified by this unknown and overwhelming power. Their bodies are pinned, and one man feels like an invisible hand is crushing his very ribs. One soldier admits this grandmaster is beyond them, but Catherine snaps at him. She warns that reinforcements are close, and not even Arthur can survive the full might of their kingdom. She adds that the finest knights of the Eastern realm will arrive at any moment to fight. The commander screams for her team to keep standing, so they can buy enough time. Arthur says he almost let them go out of respect, but their dark aura has changed his mind. He threatens to erase them from history, so no one ever knows they even existed. Suddenly, Alina rushes forward to stop her master, begging him not to go that far. She insists it is unnecessary to reach such a bloody conclusion. Alina tells Catherine that despite being betrayed, her oath to protect the innocent hasn't changed one bit. She proposes a fair one-on-one duel to settle the score right here and right now. If Alina wins, they walk away, but if she loses, they will remain silent about the incident. She insists on handling this alone, without any intervention from her powerful master. She fears his involvement will cause too much collateral damage. Nearby, the dragon beast wonders why they even bother worrying about these ants. With a pleading gaze, the young knight asks her master to permit the sacred duel. Arthur finds her bravery quite amusing and decides to let her fight her own battle. He swears upon the name of the Demon King that he will not interfere in the fight. Catherine is furious, but her companion sees a chance. He whispers that they can use this duel to buy time for the reinforcements and asks her to trust him. The Eastern swordsman steps forward, refusing to be intimidated by a mere knight from Albion. The warrior faces Alina, while the rest of the group watches the tension reach its peak. With a smirk, Arthur tells his student to show him the fruits of her hellish training. She takes her stance and then launches. Alina moves so fast she becomes a golden blur, leaving the spectators unable to even track her movement. Before he can blink, she strikes with a flurry of steel, coming to a halt directly behind him. Both stand frozen with serious expressions, and for a moment, the opponent seems totally unharmed. But then, the warrior begins coughing blood as the delayed impact of her speed hits him. The dragon watches with a satisfied grin as the battle ends. Standing over her fallen foe, Elinor coldly announces that the duel is over. And trust me, you and I just witnessed a legend in the making. Catherine is absolutely speechless. Trust me, you and I are about to see a debt settled in the most epic way. Lord Alaric notes her progress and honors his word, but warns her to flee now if she values her life. The Lady of the East seethes, screaming about how these Valorian knights dare to mock her house like this. Backed by her guard, she swears none of them will draw another breath after such a public humiliation. Without a second thought, she commands her men to slaughter every last one of them on the spot. Watching the drama unfold, Julian just sighs, completely done with the Eastern team and their arrogant attitude. The Lord gently pats his student's head, telling her she did enough while hiding his growing concern for her. Enveloped in a crimson aura, he mutters that these cowards aren't even worth the edge of his blade. Now watch this. A massive vortex of blood-red energy suddenly erupts around the legendary knight with terrifying force. The Eastern Guards and their leader freeze, paralyzed by a level of power they can't even begin to comprehend. The violent whirlwind surges forward, swallowing the entire enemy unit into its dark and crushing center until they disappear. All that raw devastation suddenly collapses into a tiny, glowing red orb right in the palm of Alaric's hand. He crushes the sphere, watching the dust settle and casually remarking that the area finally looks clean again. The master declares the show is over, telling his loyal team it is time to head back to the castle. The young lady calls out to her mentor, while a massive, ancient dragon watches them silently from the shadows. The beast is stunned, realizing the man handled that entire army alone without needing a single bit of help. As he leaves, she is glad they are allies. Meanwhile, news reaches Oakhaven of a rank 8 monster assault. Official reports flood in stating that many high-ranking Eastern knights simply vanished during the chaos of the battle. In the capital, the Eastern Duchy's council officially thanks the Kingdom of Valoria for saving their lands today. Later, in a quiet garden, an old butler approaches with a gift sent directly from the noble Count Sterling. They all watch with curiosity as the ornate wooden chest is placed on the table right before them. Inside, a legendary spear glows with holy light, leaving the young knights staring at the gift in absolute awe. Silas thinks it is an incredible treasure, but Alaric just shrugs, sensing there is a catch to this gift. He taps the blade, scoffing that it is useless for combat and is basically just a glorified icebox. The hero suggests they should have sent stakes instead, and the butler can't help but agree with him. Let's pause here, because everything changes the moment he senses something sinister approaching their private island, leaving the steward worried. Out on the waves, a mysterious vessel appears, cutting through the water at high speed toward their hidden retreat. On deck, a man in shades is amazed anyone owns an island. Certain the owner must be rank S. The strangers step ashore with their bodyguards, while the head butler apologizes for the unannounced and sudden intrusion. He explains these men represent the sovereign order, and their leader is demanding an immediate audience with the Lord. The butler tried to turn them away since Alaric is on holiday, but now he is ready to expel them. But the black-haired lord stops him, telling the butler there is no need to chase them away just yet. He thinks the leader is either very brave or very stupid for coming here, unarmed against someone so strong. With a sharp grin, the master admits he is curious, while the young lady watches him with nervous eyes. He prepares to greet them, but the visitors stop dead, wondering if they just walked into a demon lair. Their leader starts trembling, realizing the man in front of him is far beyond any normal rank S knight. Radiating a dark aura, he asks if this is the man seeking him, inviting the visitor to state his purpose. They eventually sit down in the grand hall to begin their tense negotiations with the uninvited and rude guests. As the butler serves cold chocolate, the guest is baffled that a man with such a demonic presence loves sweets. Alaric tells him to get to the point, making it clear he does not have time for useless chatter. The guild leader chokes on his drink, nearly collapsing under the sheer weight of the protagonist's massive spiritual pressure. Shaking, the man drops to the floor and bows, begging the Lord to accept their official and prestigious invitation. Without blinking, Alaric gives a flat no. Meanwhile, at the Knights' Association, the mysterious plot continues to thicken. An official scans his crystal tablet, trying to figure out where this obscure and small sovereign order came from. And trust me, you and I won't want to miss what comes next as this mystery unfolds. Stick with me. We are about to witness how one mysterious and powerful knight is currently turning the entire kingdom upside down with his very presence. The Lord is stunned, wondering if that insane S-rank knight is actually working with them. Looking grave, he demands his advisor provide every single detail about what is happening right now. The squire explains that the master of House Heirs has been hunting this legendary knight for quite a while. The Lord admits they are watching the hero, but they cannot track his every move in the shadows. Now pay attention, because the advisor just revealed the order was spotted traveling toward the distant western shores. They reach the Isle of Mist for a secret meeting. The Lord panics, wondering why anyone would ever dare to seek out such a lethal and unstable warrior. He immediately orders his man to uncover every word spoken during that dangerous encounter between the two parties. The Lord believed he had the hero under control and cannot fathom why an elite noble got involved. He realizes that if they join forces, the balance of power in the realm will shift forever. Terrified, he knows he must act immediately. The Lord picks up his communication stone and reaches out to a mysterious man named Lord Sterling. With a grim expression, he warns Sterling that there is some very urgent business that needs his attention. The Lord mentions the deal he once refused, promising to reconsider if the mercenary agrees to take this job. Sterling sounds intrigued by the new offer and asks for more specific details about the task at hand. Back on the island, the master of House Heirs is on his knees, desperately begging Arthur to explain why he refuses to join his order. Arthur stares back coldly, giving a simple answer. The man is absolutely useless to his plans. He adds that the man's life is worth no more than a pebble under his boot. Yet, he still had the sheer audacity to trespass on the hero's sacred territory. The master orders him to leave at once, as he refuses to waste another second on someone so pathetic. But the leader refuses to budge, insisting he cannot return home without securing this alliance. He knew from the start he needed this legendary knight. Without his overwhelming power, House Heirs would simply crumble and have no future in this kingdom. I know what you're thinking, but he actually shouts back, arguing that his men have fought to the death even if they seem weak. He suggests they could serve as frontline support, while the blonde master watches from the sidelines. He even offers to serve as common cleaners for the estate, begging for a single chance and promising to obey any command. Smirking, the hero asks if the man is truly willing to do absolutely anything he demands. Intrigued, the master turns around and admits that the visitor's desperate offer is actually quite interesting. The master finally grants him a chance, leaving the leader completely stunned. He asks again if they will truly do anything, and the man confirms his loyalty immediately. Smiling, the hero says that is perfect, then tells the man to finally prove his worth and skill. Then, the master orders them to begin by dismantling the Union of Mages, leaving them speechless. Moments later, the visitors are already on their ship, sailing far away from that terrifying island. On the deck, the leader worries the task is impossible, but without Arthur, they have no hope. He admits they are doomed unless they topple the 3 great noble houses. He orders his men to start investigating immediately, promising they will all be rich beyond their wildest dreams. Back on the island, the young apprentice asks her master why he gave such an insane command. Arthur replies that there was no real reason, especially since completing such a task is completely impossible. She explains the Union controls over 100 lesser orders and 3 massive dominant powers: House Draconis, the elite Valkyrie Order, and the legendary Crimson Blades of the South. As Alara listens in silence, the master admits he knows they will likely fail, leaving her confused. He explains that if they somehow manage to achieve the impossible, they will finally be worth keeping around as useful tools. With a sinister grin, he says success is not the point, as he has a different use for them. The apprentice is horrified to realize they are just being used as bait to start a war. With eyes full of pure hatred, Arthur asks if she truly believes he has forgotten his dark past. He vows to slaughter every person involved in the death of his beloved matriarch. He declares these visitors will be the spark for his bloody revenge, leaving the young woman absolutely terrified. His other ally agrees they deserve the coming storm, and that their end will be slow and agonizing. The scene shifts to a grand manor, situated in the heart of the kingdom's bustling capital city. Inside, the master of house heirs is confronted by a mysterious woman. The Valkyrie leader claims she heard he has been digging into the 3 great noble houses. The man starts sweating, silently cursing his own subordinates for being such clumsy, brainless idiots. Trust me, you're going to want to see what happens next, because she already has all the evidence of his secret schemes. All right, you and I are jumping into a story where one man's hidden moves are about to shake an entire kingdom. She claims this all started the moment they visited that legendary S-rank knight on the isolated isle. The bespectacled advisor falls into a total panic, thinking they're completely doomed, but the lady tells him to settle down since she won't move against his group yet. She explains that her order are the true protectors of the kingdom, unlike those ruthless red dragon mercenaries. All she wants to know is what kind of dark pact was made with that legendary warrior to make this happen. Her mind drifts to the worst possible outcome involving that shadowy figure from the forbidden mist-covered isle. It would be a disaster if that god-tier fighter became the primary target for the entire kingdom. This makes the House Lord incredibly nervous, and he starts frantically explaining the situation while a mysterious figure watches their meeting from the shadows across the courtyard. Meanwhile, on the distant isle, Nora is training hard in the castle courtyard. Sir Eugene trains beside her, leaving Nora wondering how this blonde knight ever ended up following our hero. Suddenly, a carrier pigeon arrives, and she wonders if the royal guard simply abandoned her out here and forgot she existed. She reads the message, complaining about the neglect, but the reply she receives reveals things are much worse than she thought. Upon reading the report, she's completely stunned, unable to wrap her head around the chaos unfolding in the capital. She races to find her master, informing him of the emergency message from the royal guard, while the hero looks on and demands an explanation for the sudden chaos in the capital. Now pay attention, because back in the capital streets, the Lord of Ares and his men are looking for trouble. Suddenly, a stranger steps out of the crowd, asking if he's the High Commander of the Ares Knight Order. The commander and his soldiers look confused, demanding to know who this bold stranger thinks they are. Over at a local tavern, the Valkyrie commander quietly watches the street until a sudden, massive explosion nearby catches her attention and leaves her completely frozen in shock. A violent blast erupts, turning the entire building into a pile of burning rubble. Elsewhere, the Grandmaster of the Red Dragons fumes with rage after hearing someone has defected to his enemies. He scoffs, wondering if the traitor really thought he would escape his grasp, but then he sees the urgent reports of the devastating attack that just hit the capital city. With a sinister grin, he decides the man has finally proven himself and welcomes the House of Ares into his fold. High above, a fast carriage enchanted by wind magic races toward its final, dangerous destination. Landing at the palace, our hero steps out while his advisors frantically ask about the rumors they just heard. In a private chamber, an official is horrified to hear the hero plans to storm the royal council's headquarters after learning the Ares commander was ambushed in the capital. Luckily, the Valkyrie commander stepped in, but while the Ares lord was badly wounded, his men miraculously escaped unharmed. You and I might be guessing, but they still haven't found a single motive for the brutal attack. That's when the truth comes out. The entire House of Ares is now under the total control of the Isle Master. The official panics, demanding to know how and since when this even happened, while his partner admits they only just discovered the shocking truth themselves a moment ago. The lady explains that the hero believes the council attacked his new servant and is now planning a bloody retaliation. The elder lord argues that they still have no solid proof regarding who the real culprit behind the ambush was. In that exact second, the truth hits him, and he collapses into a state of total, soul-crushing despair. She confirms the master staged the whole ambush just to seize control of House Ares, using the chaos as a perfect excuse to hunt down those who harmed his grandmother. Inside the carriage, the driver asks if they should make their way toward the Royal Guard's fortress right now. Our hero says no, deciding that they'll be heading over to the Valkyrie Order's headquarters instead. As the carriage turns, Nora and Eugene look deeply uneasy about the path ahead, and the blonde knight quietly tries to get the master's attention to voice her concerns. He nods, admitting he knows what she means, and agrees that not everyone serving the council is a villain. However, he makes one thing clear: he will never let the suffering of his grandmother go unpunished, no matter what. He agrees there is no need for a total massacre, instead revealing his plan to dominate the entire council and use their resources for his own ultimate goals. The master decides to visit the Valkyries first, believing their strength might be a useful tool for him later on. He needs to see if they're even worth sparing before he launches his final assault on the Royal Council. He muses that it would be a real bonus if the few good souls left were actually useful for his ambitions. Soon, the carriage pulls up to a massive tower, and inside, a panicked scout screams to everyone that an S-rank knight has arrived to lay waste to their order. Suddenly, the Valkyrie commander appears, commanding everyone to lower their weapons and remain calm for the time being. Trust me, you and I are about to see if she's smart enough to keep her house from being leveled. Let's jump into a story where a hero's mercy has finally run out. Lady Seraphina orders her knights to evacuate immediately. In the Grand Hall, the two factions finally clash. Our hero wastes no time and demands to know if this woman leads the Order of the Valkyries. The noblewoman stands tall, confirming she is Lady Seraphina, the Grand Master of this prestigious awakened guild. The master realizes she's far more powerful than the local tavern rumors claimed. He senses a rare talent that could be useful. Seraphina claims she only confronted him to talk, never intending to harm the master. Watch this, he mentions the House of 𝒆𝒏𝒕. The lady is totally stunned, rendered speechless by that name. The master sneers, asking if she truly plans to claim total ignorance about their dark involvement. Terrified, she realizes the 𝒆𝒏𝒕 massacre was just the start. He won't stop until the entire High Council pays for their crimes. Our hero looms over her, demanding a full explanation of every dirty detail she knows. The lady admits her order was disbanded to hold 𝒆𝒏𝒕 accountable for their horrific actions. But the Grand Chancellor buried the truth after taking a massive bribe from the 𝒆𝒏𝒕 lords. She was powerless against the Scarlet Order's influence. If the truth leaked, the entire kingdom's foundation would crumble instantly. Seraphina argues that despite the injustice, they had to keep silent to protect the realm. The master steps closer, interpreting her silence as nothing more than cowardly approval. Surrounded by a dark aura, he asks if she really thinks standing by makes her innocent. She panics, fearing he will execute everyone. Her knights scream for him to stop and conjure a massive protective barrier. Watch him shatter the barrier and seize her throat. A loyal knight roars in fury, charging at the master to save his dying leader. But our hero's blonde knight steps in, blocking the strike with her gleaming steel. She delivers a crushing kick, while the red-haired companion unleashes her terrifying dragon transformation and joins the fray. With draconic speed, she pins another member down, threatening to scar her face forever. The master tightens his grip, mocking her greater good. For him, this is about cold, hard family revenge. He asks if she will still cling to those noble ideals while facing her own execution. Weeping, the Valkyrie leader begs him to take her life as the only punishment. "Spare my knights. I will take full responsibility for everything." The young apprentice holds her ground, while the hero calls her desperate plea an absolute absurdity. We cut away to the massive fortress of the powerful Scarlet Order. Two high-ranking lords exit the building while finalizing a shady business deal. The elder lord stops in shock, his phone vibrating as he demands a status update. He answers with a scowl, confused by the frantic shouting on the other end. A dark voice replies that their situation has just become a total nightmare. The contact explains that their target is far more dangerous than they anticipated. This target is a force of nature, and right now, he is heading straight for Grand Chancellor Valerius. Valerius panics and tries to change his previous orders. He screams for his guards to protect him immediately. The mercenary on the line mocks his fear, saying only they can save him now. Reinforcements have been sent, but the man mocks the high and mighty chancellor's fear. He won't discount the fee, leaving Valerius absolutely furious at the mercenary. Furious, the chancellor smashes his phone, cursing the mercenary's name in a blind rage. He orders his aide to gather everyone for battle. The subordinate agrees and rushes to tell the others. Valerius believes he still has the upper hand. Today, everything will finally be settled once and for all. He sits in his carriage. So, you and I are left wondering what comes next. Seraphina is terrified. Stick with me, Arthur claims. He only spared her and her knights because their house could still be a valuable asset. He commands her to follow him. They are heading straight for the gates of the Crimson Order to settle the score. Inside the carriage, the lady demands to know why she is being dragged along. Arthur simply replies that she will be the one to testify against the Duke for his long list of crimes. Her word will justify the carnage he is about to unleash, all while his loyal squire watches in silence. Looking stone cold, our hero vows to bring every one of these criminals to justice. He plans to rally those loyal to the crown, revealing he spared her just so she could witness his will being carried out. The commander of the Shield Maiden Knights finally sees the vision and agrees to follow his lead. Suddenly, the coachman pulls the reins. The road is blocked. A massive army of knights in crimson armor has completely sealed off the main thoroughfare ahead. The party steps out, standing tall against the sea of enemies gathered to stop their advance. Arthur tells his allies to stand back. A dark, suffocating aura erupts from him as he claims this vengeance for himself alone. A crimson captain spots them and screams for his men to cut the bastard down where he stands. Arthur unleashes his power, obliterating the first wave. Trust me, you and I are about to see his true strength. Far away, Duke Alistair listens through his scrying stone to the echoes of his men screaming for help. A mysterious figure by his side asks if this is the legendary S-rank knight, mocking that he doesn't look very impressive. He warns the Duke that he is lucky, because right now, Arthur is barely using a fraction of his true power. The terrified Duke begs the stranger to kill the monster. With a wicked grin, the mercenary agrees to handle it for a massive pile of gold. Back at the front lines, another soldier is sent flying with a single, devastating blow. Steam rises from Arthur's fists as he surveys the carnage, wondering if he has finally cleared out all the small fry. The Shield Maiden commander is speechless. One man has just wiped out the entire vanguard of the Crimson Order. She realizes now that she made the right choice by siding with Lord Arthur. His young squire smiles, noting that the master was being merciful today since he left most of them breathing. Arthur's expression shifts as he senses a deadlier presence. He tells his pupils to retreat to a safe distance immediately. A massive pillar of flame erupts without warning, nearly consuming them. The girls panic as Cedric throws up a shimmering protective barrier to save them. Yet Arthur remains standing perfectly still, untouched by the inferno raging all around him. Lord Julian is genuinely shocked to see that our hero is still standing after taking such a direct hit. Arthur acknowledges the strength of the strike, but the stranger just laughs, calling it a simple greeting for a legend. Smirking, the man reveals he is also an S-rank, introducing himself as Lord Julian of the Shadow Syndicate. The girls are terrified. The orange-haired mercenary glares at Arthur, declaring that the hero's time of death has finally arrived. "You and I know that name means trouble." She repeats the name of that forbidden cult of assassins. Next to her, the blonde apprentice is paralyzed, the words dying in her throat from pure terror. They look on with blank stares, wondering just how deep the syndicate's corruption truly goes. The commander knows how grave this is. Most knights use their gifts to serve the realm, but some only crave chaos. The Shadow Syndicate is a dark union of knights who use their powers for pure evil. She recalls questioning the Duke about this group years ago. He denied their existence then, but she never stopped suspecting the old fox. Back in the present, Julian flashes a confident, murderous grin at our hero. The commander finally realizes the Duke has been in league with the Syndicate all along. The old Duke screams that Arthur isn't the only S-rank power and that he'll pay. Meanwhile, Julian is confused by Arthur's lack of any reaction. Julian grows irritated, complaining that Arthur did not give him the dramatic reaction he was hoping for. Looking completely bored, Arthur replies that he already knows exactly who this blonde jester is. He scans the enemy's aura and realizes there is nothing special about him. Arthur steps forward, calmly offering to correct the mercenary. A dark energy swirls around him as he notes that Julian won't be his end. Many have tried and failed before. Julian turns to the Duke and tells the old man to scurry off to a nearby shelter if he wants to live. But the Duke snaps back, refusing to take orders from a mere sellsword while he wants to watch the execution. Enraged, Julian roars at the Duke to move his hide, unless he wants to be roasted alive alongside the hero. The Duke grumbles in annoyance. "So tell me, do you and I think this Julian is actually a threat? Stick with me, you and I are about to witness a battle that levels entire kingdoms." One knight curses and retreats while the enemy mocks our hero's arrogance. Seeing the incoming carnage, the Grandmaster warns the young noble ladies to stay away from the main battle. The enemy prepares a massive surge of mana, asking if the young warrior will still boast after this strike. Dylan leaps high, unleashing a Tier 6 spell called Inferno. A colossal, flaming demonic skull screams toward Arthur. Our protagonist is genuinely surprised by the sheer velocity of such a high-level magic incantation. He wonders if this terrifying speed comes from some kind of hidden, unique trait the enemy possesses. Far away, Lady Seraphina screams for her master as the heat becomes unbearable, melting the very ground with pink energy. 𝒆𝒍𝒍 watches in terror, doubting if any man can truly endure such a hellish, concentrated blast of fire. Yet Arthur stands his ground with total confidence. Elena watches closely, certain our hero will not fall easily. The sorcerer prepares another attack, stating he won't. Underestimate an S-tier knight. Dylan focuses every ounce of mana, determined to make this moment the hero's final end. Suddenly, a violent torrent of pink energy completely swallows Arthur's body, hiding him from the world. A dark hurricane of power erupts. Dylan feels the impact and struggles to keep control of his own magic. Now watch this. A monumental explosion rips through the air where the two men were just fighting. Far off, Duke Sterling feels the earth shake. Dylan offers a mock apology for the chaos he caused. He tells the old man to consider this a free and violent renovation of the Guild Citadel headquarters. The sorcerer ignites a magic circle, unleashing a blast that vaporizes everything in the area with impressive force. The entire headquarters is lost to the flames as Dylan stares coldly at the ruins he created. With a dark laugh, he boasts that no soul alive can hope to stop his fire magic. Sterling is fuming at the destruction, but he justifies it. If Arthur is dead, the building is worth the sacrifice. Elena cries out in panic, realizing these flames are hot enough to liquefy solid concrete. She fears even the master can't survive this. No one has ever seen a fire this absolutely massive and terrifying. Seraphina takes command, ordering the immediate evacuation of any survivors before the next shockwave hits them. She knows the real battle is only beginning, and they must contain the damage right now. But she tells them to keep faith, Her master is not a man who falls to this. You and I knew this wasn't over. Suddenly, a dark vortex appears, devouring the pink flames like a black hole. Dylan freezes in absolute horror, unable to comprehend how his greatest spell is being erased from existence. A voice echoes that while the fire was impressive for this land, to him, it's just basic magic. With a calm smirk, Arthur steps forward, telling his foe that he is still leagues below him. The blonde adversary snarls in rage at the insult. Arthur then manifests a spear from pure shadow magic. In a blink, Arthur strikes. The Grandmaster of the Crimson Order watches the scene in total, paralyzed panic. A flood of red energy instantly consumes the sorcerer, leaving no room for escape or even a prayer. The resulting red blast lights up the entire city like a second sun, creating a massive glare. Nearby, a knight and Lady Selene arrive at the ruins, lamenting that they arrived too late. Selene notes, there's no point in rushing in now that the heavy lifting is already finished. Her partner knows Arthur will finish up soon. Remarkably, Dylan is still standing among the smoldering embers. With eyes full of hatred, the sorcerer prepares for one last desperate stand against the unstoppable hero. Walking through the dying flames, Arthur tells him his petty quest for revenge ends right here. He asks with a grin if they should have some fun. Dylan screams about being underestimated by him. Arthur doesn't slow down, walking through the wall of fire as if it were a light breeze. With a casual lift of his hand, he defends himself from Dylan's next fiery attack with zero effort. The blonde shouts that he isn't the only one with special gifts, unleashing a twin elemental burst. He fires a torrent of gold and red fire. Arthur stands motionless as the explosion hits him directly. Dylan asks with a grin how he likes that power, but his smile vanishes once he sees the result. Arthur caught the blast barehanded, and trust me, seeing him adapt this quickly is the coolest thing ever. All right, stay with me, because we are about to watch a top-tier mage get absolutely humbled by a monster. He demands to know how a physical fighter could possibly withstand his high-level sorcery without a single scratch. As the young man closes in, he corrects him. He isn't a brawler but a true archmage. He mocks the knight's magic as basic amateur hour, calling his sense of superiority completely laughable. Stunned, the orange-haired nobleman can't believe his elite spells are being dismissed as mere elemental tricks. The master notes this is the core divide between men and demons, power born of raw fighting instinct rather than refined skills. Unlike demons, the humans of this kingdom lose their will the second they face a truly superior foe. It looks like the blonde knight has finally reached the absolute peak of his remaining strength. But Dylan offers a twisted apology, admitting he totally underestimated the boy's true physical nature. Laughing, the knight prepares to unleash his full power. Our hero just smiles, praising his spirit while asking for much more fun. Wasting no time, the blonde noble conjures a massive wall of roaring fire from his palms. As the inferno rises, the protagonist actually feels the heat beginning to scorch his skin. He realizes the enemy is finally getting serious. Dylan screams for the fire to compress and crush his target. Now pay attention, because here is where the master actually starts to feel a little bit of the pressure. Dylan shouts that this is just the start, summoning a volcano. Suddenly, a massive maw of lava and fire erupts from the earth. Several serpents made of molten rock lunge at our hero, catching him completely off guard. Without a second of rest, the enemy launches a lethal flame wedge. The spinning attack tears through the air toward the warrior. The strike lands with a direct hit. A massive explosion of pink energy and fire consumes everything in the immediate area. From the distance, the ladies helping the survivors can only watch the devastation with terrified expressions. Dylan assumes even a rank 8 mage would be dead. He is sure the blow was fatal. But you and I know better. Look at him just casually grabbing a lava serpent right out of the air. The knight is paralyzed with pure shock. He watches as his lava serpents are crushed and the fire stomped out. Cloaked in a terrifying dark aura, the master stares back with a gaze as cold as ice. Desperate, Dylan screams at the top of his lungs. He can't understand why this man won't die. He keeps shouting in pure frustration, desperately launching more fire. Our hero doesn't even flinch as the final attack approaches him. Finally, the hero raises his arm. It is time to end this little game once and for all. With a blur of motion, a red energy strike cuts through the air. It tears through Dylan's arms and chest. The knight is lost in a daze of pain until Taeyong suddenly plants a boot on his chest. He slams the blonde noble into the dirt, standing over his broken body like a true conqueror. Dylan coughs up blood, his body completely mangled. The hero looks down at his fallen enemy without showing any shred of mercy. He continues to grind his heel into the man's ribs, proving exactly who is superior here. Broken and beaten, the once proud orange-haired knight begins to sob in pure, pathetic terror. With a cruel smirk, the master asks if he has finally lost both his arms. He taunts him to just regrow them. In his desperation, the enemy gasps out a few words that actually spark the warrior's interest. The protagonist realizes the fun is over. The knight has finally reached his absolute limit. He decides to reward the fight with a magic finish. Dylan begs for his life, offering gold and even his loyalty. He even offers up secrets about his organization, while the Valkyries watch the pathetic scene unfold. But the hero sighs. He can't use magic in this world. He simply quotes that advanced power is indistinguishable from magic anyway. He delivers the final strike, causing a massive explosion while the Valkyrie leader is forced to avert her gaze from the carnage. The warrior stands perfectly still in the aftermath, his arms coated in the blood of his enemy. The dark energy slowly fades away, revealing nothing but a massive crater where the knight once stood. With the carnage over, the two observers approach. They have never seen a level 5 enemy cause such ruin. The partner agrees, whispering that it is a miracle the entire area wasn't completely leveled. Selene sighs in relief as the fight ends, and a healer tends to the wounded. Suddenly, Nari appears and catches everyone's attention. And that's where we leave it. Nari apologizes for her master, promising they won't run from their responsibilities. All right, you and I are about to see a world where the capital's destruction is considered a fair price for victory. The man asks what kind of hero could cause all that chaos. The blonde knight reveals Tristan fought a platinum-class warrior, leaving everyone in the room absolutely stunned. He says that is impossible, since there are only 10 warriors of that caliber in the entire world. His partner adds that every platinum-class knight is strictly controlled by their respective crowns. The Shield Maiden reveals the enemy came from a mysterious group called the Unseen. She says the council isn't the issue, and they must strike back before it is too late. Then she adds that this has now become a direct threat to the safety of the entire kingdom of Albion. The scene shifts to an imposing citadel where a high-stakes council meeting is about to take place. Inside, the Grand Commander is stunned to hear the organization's name. Sienna believes the old man already knew about the Shadow Group. Now pay attention, because the truth is finally coming out. Hiding secrets won't save anyone anymore. The commander reveals that only the highest lords knew about the existence of this secret Shadow Group. Records show the Unseen have already been seen in the Eastern Isles, the Jade Empire, and several other realms. He explains they are a terrorist cell, which is why everything was kept under a veil of silence. Arthur thinks this decision is foolish, comparing it to a bird burying its head in the sand while thinking it is hidden. But the lady says that, after the recent disaster, they can no longer keep the public in the dark. Soon, every soul in Albion will know the threat and the clash between Tristan and that rival knight. With the old order disbanded, she proposes creating a new High Council. The plan is to blame the former king and announce that Arthur was sent specifically to prevent a total catastrophe. This way, the Security Council and the young warrior will become the new hope for the entire realm. Meanwhile, a magical holographic meeting is held between the rulers of every major power on the continent. A red-haired lady coldly announces that Dylan is dead. One lord mocks him, saying the crazy man finally died and he won a bet. With a grim expression, the red-haired woman repeats the fallen man's name to silence the entire room. Everyone is stunned by the confirmation of their comrade's death. One lord goes quiet, realizing the gravity of the news. They learn the battle happened in Albion during a mission against a newly emerged platinum-class threat. You and I both know Dylan was a beast, so his death means the situation is beyond serious. Their leader orders them to contact a man named Charles to uncover the full story of the defeat. A mercenary named Garrett is ordered to Albion, and he seems to relish the idea of a hunt. He departs as a dark rift opens, eager to meet the man who actually managed to kill his partner in battle. Back in the capital, the sky splits as a rift opens. Arthur's new squad walks through the city with focused expressions. Sitting alone on a bench, the young man wonders what his new comrades are actually thinking. The squad leader says tension keeps them focused, but the transformed lady disagrees with being so rigid right now. The blonde girl remarks that her companion is strong enough to handle an entire army by himself. She quickly changes the subject, turning to their leader to decide on a name for their new team. Eugene suggests the name Invincible since their captain is the strongest. Nora suggests the name White Dragon Squad. The others get annoyed, asking if they are just lazily mixing together two old squad names like a cheap stew. Then Sienna joins the conversation and suggests they call themselves the Untouchables for their new title. She explains it means no one can even lay a finger on them. The girls love the cool idea and quickly agree. The squad is officially christened the Untouchables, and the young leader seems satisfied with the choice. The captain nods in agreement, but suddenly, the entire team looks toward the sky in absolute shock and surprise. The rift begins to expand rapidly, terrifying every soul present. The blonde knight realizes this is just like the market massacre. Sienna and the dragon woman tense up at the threat. Arthur faces the growing void with total confidence and a gaze of pure steel. Nora looks at her master and finds peace, knowing that with him there, nothing can hurt them. A panicked soldier screams for a retreat. Within the dark vortex, sinister red eyes glow with a murderous, evil energy. While the other warriors flee, Arthur stands his ground, refusing to move. A massive, monstrous claw tears through the rift. A colossal dragon emerges, and Arthur wonders if this is a sick prank. And that's where we leave it. You and I just witnessed a war dragon entering the mortal realm. All right, you and I are about to see a hero challenge fate after breaking a mysterious blood oath. The knight captain checks her hourglass in shock, seeing it is a rank 7 threat. Cedric recognizes the monster looming over our hero. Alaric realizes the form and dark energy of this beast are identical to the first dragon Arthur ever defeated. Julian suggests naming this creature Red Worm too, leaving the two high-ranking ladies in a state of pure shock. The golden-haired girl claims her master will slay the beast without a single scratch, just like the first time. But as she boasts of his skill, the massive red worm too crushes Arthur under its giant claw. His companions scream in total despair. Suddenly, the dragon hears a voice remarking on how surprising it is to see a corpse walking. It was Arthur, completely unharmed, casually noting that this dragon did not actually feel like an undead creature. Our hero wonders if the monster was brought back to life by some forbidden resurrection spell or dark ritual. He decides to leave the questions for later, snapping his fingers to start the fight and advancing toward the monster. The young warrior leaps into the air to launch his strike, while the massive beast let out a deafening roar. Punching the dragon right in the skull, he vows to decapitate it once again as the monster glares with fury. Then, he delivers a devastating kick directly against the top of the enemy's armored head. Now watch this closely. He lands and stares down the mountain-sized beast as it lashes out with its tail. In an incredible display of strength, he catches the monster's tail with both of his bare hands. A fierce crimson energy begins to flow from his arms as he grips the dragon's tail with unyielding force. With legendary strength, the hero heaves the dragon into the sky and slams it down, leaving the colossal monster totally dazed. The warrior then coldly commands the giant lizard to stand back up so they can finish their battle. He draws his legendary sword from within the shadow portal and jumps over the beast's head, readying his dark blade for the final strike. Far across the kingdom, green lightning strikes volcanic peaks, and witnesses can only think this is pure madness. A mysterious group watches the horizon, while one member mentions the arrival of a rank 7 enemy. A man with a long white beard is worried because this disaster should not have started for another 3 years. The hooded figure tells them to stay silent, as another points out that the magical barrier has grown weak. The leader turns to Alara and asks if she is ready. The girl stares at the bubbling lava in deep thought. With a confident look, the young woman says it will be difficult, but she is certain she can manage it. But the scarred man stares her down, demanding a firm, absolute answer rather than something so vague. The redhead corrects herself immediately, declaring with total determination that she will succeed without a single mistake. Satisfied, one member says they will follow his lead. The leader orders everyone into position to begin the dark ritual. He turns to Alara and gives the command to start as the girl begins to channel her power. The young woman joins her palms and begins to concentrate a massive sphere of glowing blue magic. The hooded man raises his hand to guide the spell, while the other members of the group also channel their energies to assist. You saw that smile, right? The leader whispers the word annihilation as the dark power peaks. He reaches toward the heavens, pouring his own dark, corruptive energy into the center of the spell. Their combined powers create a massive dark vortex. Alara looks up in horror, unable to believe what they have summoned. With glowing red eyes, the hooded man smiles and declares that this is the beginning of the true apocalypse. The dark portal spins with violent force, ready to unleash a nightmare upon the unsuspecting world. Back in the capital, the sun shines over a peaceful day until chaos erupts and people begin screaming for help. A group of palace knights spots the new threat and realizes they are facing a rank 9 catastrophe. A massive explosion sends the knights flying. A boy in a gray cloak lands safely, but looks around in terror. Twisted dark tentacles begin to burst from the cobblestone streets, spreading throughout the entire city. He turns around as something fast approaches, but he is too slow. A trail of blood is all that remains. Meanwhile, at the Great Port, word spreads that the most powerful mages from across the globe are gathering. Inside his carriage, our hero looks out at the passing scenery and asks if the rank S mages will arrive. His servant confirms that the empires of the West and East are sending at least 3 legendary heroes in total. Stick around, because as Alaric announces their arrival, the real war between nations and monsters is just beginning. Let's dive into a story where kingdoms are on the brink of absolute disaster. Nari wonders if the legendary Anderson from the Western Isles will also join this fight. Her master just smirks, finding the tension exciting. The blonde girl recalls that their enemy is only rank 9, so it should be simple for a legendary hero like him. He pats her head, telling her to relax because everything is under control. Stepping off their transport, a man asks if they are the gifted knights from Korea. Inside the carriage, the guide begins explaining the whole crisis. The pink-haired lady finds it strange that a mere silver tier knight is handling their security to hide info. She wonders if the kingdom is truly in such a desperate state. As they leave, he explains the beast has been cycling between rage and rest for 10 days. There are already 30 silver tier and 12 gold tier knights present. He adds that 5 legendary high-tier heroes are also on site. Forces from the United States and the United Kingdom have already sent their elite warriors. The girl looks confused, asking if there were only supposed to be 4 champions total. The guide smiles, explaining that powerful nations always keep secret trump cards in reserve. They exit the carriage as he explains the silver tiers handle logistics. The gold tier knights were chosen specifically for their healing and support magic to help the front lines. Their leader adds that the high-tier heroes will naturally be spearheading the main assault. In a private chamber, a servant announces that the Korean reinforcements have arrived. The man is relieved they are alive, noting they now have 6 high-tier heroes in total. He gets visibly irritated, wanting to keep his secret weapon from China hidden away from the world. His comrade asks if they really need this many legendary warriors for one foe. Pay attention here, because his sinister smile suggests that even this might not be enough. The young man is confused by that cryptic response. Suddenly, he looks completely horrified at the sight of what lies right in front of him. A magic bracelet can barely suppress an injury, even though it possesses ultimate healing power. The victim explains the wound came from just the energy leaking off that monster. While the dark sphere pulses, he reveals he didn't even fight the creature. In the waiting room, Nari gasps in surprise. She spots Jane, a famous high-tier knight from England, waiting among the others. The blonde girl is thrilled. They gathered all her legendary rivals, even the strongest ones. She points out a famous healer. But pay attention, this mysterious boy in the dark hoodie is the one you and I need to watch. He walks toward our protagonist, asking if he is the high-tier hero from Korea. The master just smirks at the arrival. A screen reveals his name is Lefang, a man who survived many surgeries. Lefang turns to the man and mockingly asks if he recognizes his face. Nari jumps in the way, demanding to know who he thinks he is. With a cold glare, Lefang tells her to move aside so he can talk to her master. Other heroes whisper that he is China's new secret weapon. Galen approaches the two, asking what the issue is with this arrogant rookie named Lefang. The man just scoffs and turns away. The cloaked figure then asks our hero if he is really the legendary champion from that small country. Go silently decides that this young man is actually a coward. He says his goodbyes, claiming he is far too busy. He mocks the Koreans, stating they need much stronger nations if they want to survive. This makes the blonde girl fume, muttering that they are no match for her master. Our hero just watches him walk away, remaining completely calm and unbothered by the insult. His focus shifts to another man in the room whom he watches closely. A screen identifies him as Benjamin, a high-tier sorcerer. But the girl insists he is a famous healer, known by everyone as a great saint. The youth is confused because a note shows he is actually a servant. The system questions his true identity. Benjamin approaches them, asking if the Korean champion has any business with him. The girl excitedly explains that this is the Saint of Manchester she told him about. Her master stares deeply, asking if he is truly a holy man gifted with healing. The man smiles, confirming he specializes in curing deadly status effects. Our hero smirks, saying he thought he was a wizard. Suddenly, Benjamin's fake smile vanishes, and he looks completely stunned by that simple comment. He laughs, claiming healing magic is fake, but trust me, you and I can see he's hiding something big. All right, you and I are about to see what happens when the hero's page explains only clerics can heal, while the knight smirks, calling healing magic a myth. The young squire laughs nervously and bids a hasty farewell as Lady Leona rushes off in a hurry. The Grandmaster tells his squire to ignore that fool as the noble knights assemble for the grand battle about to begin. The monoblessed warriors gather now, their faces etched with grim and serious determination. Our hero simply crosses his arms and gives a confident smile, while Lord Godfrey prepares to go all out in the coming fight. From the edge of the square, the knights witness the capital city completely leveled and destroyed by the enemy. The golden-haired lady scans the ruins, noting that she cannot see Duke Sterling anywhere in the vicinity. The other lady realizes the plan is to let lower knights exhaust the beast before Lady Alina and Sir Gawain support the Duke's final strike. The hero's page suspects the Empire believes this conquest will be an easy victory for their forces. The Grandmaster turns to his aide and asks why she feels such a deep and dangerous sense of dread. She explains the Empire has surrendered all spoils of war, which shows the absolute level of their desperation. Our hero says he understands the gravity of what is at stake before ordering his companions to retreat from the field at once. The blonde knight smiles and says that since they are rank B knights, they would have stayed in the rear anyway, but her master barks a correction, ordering them to abandon the battlefield entirely. With glowing eyes, he agrees that the looming clash is going to be far more lethal than they imagined. He felt the knight's power, but never expected it to be this overwhelming and terrifying. Suddenly, the other warriors scream in pure panic. Sir Gareth asks if the assault is beginning, while Sir Tristan opens his mystical and ancient armory portal. He draws a cursed blade that drains the life of its wielder, warning the steel that it must obey its true master. Now pay attention, because this is where a massive, terrifying eye appears in the sky, watching over the fallen city. The beast's gale force blows the other warriors back, but our hero stands his ground firmly against the wind. He readies his blood-red sword to face the horror, shouting for the rank B knights to flee the scene immediately. One man mutters about the enemy's insane strength, asking the blonde knight if he can actually handle a threat this big. The knight responds with a look of pure worry, admitting he is not entirely sure if victory is even possible. His companion points out that these foes are ranked and categorized by their sheer level of destructive power. He points at the giant eye and explains that it belongs to royalty and is impossible to defeat, but the blonde knight keeps his hope alive. But his comrade questions him, asking if the gap in their power is simply too wide to overcome. The hero replies that is why they are there, but admits fighting this monster alone would be nearly impossible. Another warrior notes that even with high-rank knights, this will be hell, and asks what the strategy is. Suddenly, our protagonist marches forward alone, and someone screams that he is absolutely insane for going out there. Despite the danger, the knight charges the beast with a glowing blade, inspiring the blonde to rally everyone for a joint attack. The hunters roar with excitement now that Duke Sterling, the strongest man alive, is finally joining the fray. You and I both know that smirk. Duke Sterling remembers the man who once defeated him like a helpless child. A magical screen flickers to life, revealing that the eye will show its true strength for the final battle. Our hero admits the beast is far stronger than him, describing the creature as a living god draped in divine power. A frantic cry warns him that the divine light of this decadent fragment is extremely dangerous. With his arm wreathed in crimson energy, the protagonist readies his final strike against the looming monstrosity. He leaps into the clouds and strikes with his blood-red blade, hovering before the giant eye while the whole world watches. The long-haired boy scowls, finding this entire display of power and the situation absolutely revolting. Suddenly, obsidian thorns burst from the impact site as a screen reveals the chain of destruction, turning them into monsters. The man in the fine tunic hits the ground and draws his steel to face the new dark horde. He springs into the air again, challenging the creatures to see who will be left standing at the end. Meanwhile, the blonde hero finds himself completely cut off and surrounded by the freshly summoned shadows. He strikes with his shining blade, but the monster's remains become elite enemies, so the blonde knight shouts for all high-rank knights to advance. The other warriors brace themselves for the slaughter, shouting for everyone to hold the line at all costs. Trust me, you and I are just getting started as our hero floats midair, dodging the dark attacks closing in on him. All right, let's dive into an epic battle where our hero unleashes a purple aura against monsters from a giant eye. A knight grumbles that Arthur ruined the plan, leaving them to fight the minions. Anderson slashes through the monsters, boasting he is stronger than all of those trash mobs combined. The blonde knight snaps, asking if anyone else has the guts to face that thing like Arthur can. From a distance, the hero's allies watch the chaos, feeling completely helpless to join the fray. The lady insists they must at least protect the rank B squires. She tells the others to summon help while the blonde knight prepares to charge in. Meanwhile, back on the front lines, one of the knights finds himself totally surrounded by the beasts. He is pinned down by multiple monsters at once and cannot break free from their grip. The creatures rush toward Galen, ready for blood. The hunter is stunned to see Arthur fighting with such incredible ease. He shouts to Anderson, warning him that the knight from Avalon is being pushed back by the horde. But Anderson sees the truth. Despite his power, the young hero is starting to feel the pressure. He wonders what happens if Arthur actually falls. Suddenly, a black and red tentacle strikes out at the protagonist with terrifying speed. He stares at his hand in horror as his skin and muscle begin to rot away. Behind him, the giant eye just watches, wreathed in flames. Lord Angrel, the demon lord, spreads his crimson wings and curses the monster like a total boss. The creature unleashes its gaze of madness, but the hero stares right back, refusing to show any fear. Now pay attention. With his eyes glowing, he asks if it wants to drive him insane before going berserk. Arthur charges forward, screaming that he is already crazy as he slams into the eye. The strike lands perfectly, but a massive magical barrier suddenly appears. He begins raining blows upon the shield, desperate to find a weak point. Realizing his blade is doing nothing against the intact barrier, he drops his sword and prepares to use his fists. He throws punch after punch against the shield, but the defense seems absolutely impenetrable. With fire in his eyes, the young knight continues his assault, refusing to give up. Finally, cracks start to spread across the glowing barrier. The protagonist's savage attacks create a massive whirlwind that sweeps across the entire area. Seeing this display of raw power, one hunter wonders if Avalon's champion has finally lost his mind. In that moment, Anderson notices the monsters have stopped spawning thanks to the pressure on the eye. One man asks for help, but another says they can only handle the weak ones. The girl strikes while wondering if they will respawn. Another knight warns that if more monsters appear, it will be impossible for the squires to retreat safely. Hearing this, the brown-haired warrior decides to join the hero right on the front lines. The blonde knight takes command, ordering everyone to adjust their formation based on the flow of battle. Following orders, the hunters push through the ruins of the city. However, the hero realizes the monster is still standing strong. He studies the creature's barrier, noting that despite the cracks, the enemy is still resisting. Anderson prepares his ultimate move and screams as he unleashes his powerful wind cutter. The blonde swings his sword, sending a massive wave of energy at the shield, but to his shock. And yeah, I know what you are thinking. The attack was blocked easily, and Arthur tells him his effort was useless. Unfazed by the insult, another knight charges in and starts punching the monster's hard shell. Another hunter puts his whole soul into a throw, hurling a massive rock to break the defense. One of the mages summons jagged purple spikes that erupt violently from the ground. He uses the purple spears to deflect the eye's attacks, but red tentacles soon begin hunting him down. From the back, a knight gets annoyed and demands to know what the front line is doing after hearing screams. Meanwhile, one of the warriors collapses to his knees, clutching his badly mangled and bleeding arm. He looks at his limb in shock as the skin disintegrates. His friend tells him to be quiet because the arm has to go. One of the hunters screams for everyone to dodge a sudden and lethal surprise attack. The young man spins around and barely evades. A red hand grabs the injured knight while the other jumps away. The red hand vanishes, leaving its victim, Mulligan, to slowly turn into dust and blow away. The survivor looks on in pure horror, paralyzed with fear. He gazes at the giant eye and realizes this monster is simply unbeatable. Anderson approaches the protagonist and asks him if there is truly no way for them to win. Trust me, you and I are about to see just how bleak things really are for our heroes. Arthur says it would take a century to win. All right, you and I are jumping into the moment Aliner asks if this beast can even be stopped. The knight in his formal attire admits there is no way to halt it, but Lord Anderson vows to fight while our hero prepares to charge into the fray. The commander thinks to himself that this chaos was just another day in the abyssal void. The weary knights spot the two legends and cheer that reinforcements have finally arrived to save them. Meanwhile, the Lady Knight rallies the others, holding them back from a suicidal charge into the darkness. Shadows lash out as the knights defend themselves against the encroaching void. From the distance, The colossal eye watches the slaughter, weaving its red tentacles to crush anyone left standing in the field of battle. Arthur grows furious as he realizes one of the strikes is aimed at his own apprentice. Elinor was busy cutting down the smaller monsters, completely unaware of the deadly shadow looming over her head. The winged knight dives at blinding speed, screaming for the girl to move. She looks up, eyes wide with terror, just as the massive tentacle is about to crush the life out of her. She braces for the end, closing her eyes tight, but when she opens them, her master is standing there. He shielded her with his massive wings, calmly explaining that he had already ordered the others to pull back. The hero feels a wave of weakness, while Elinor trembles at the sight of her master's injuries. He mutters that he could easily destroy this false god if only his magic worked here. Then, without warning, a dark star appears in the sky and starts to pulse with a strange light. Trust me, watch this part. Arthur is stunned to feel a familiar power drawing near. He flares his wings, declaring that his true strength has finally returned. His shattered hand begins to reform, glowing with a brilliant emerald energy that lights up the entire battlefield. The girl is terrified, asking what this insane pressure is. Arthur just smiles, tells her to watch closely, and places a hand on her head to initiate a massive teleportation spell. Elinor tries to ask what is happening, but she vanishes before she can even finish her sentence. With a confident grin, he reaches out his hand as his old magic floods back into his soul. Across the field, the knights flee in total desperation from the shadow tentacles. But the darkness is far swifter, coiling around the heroes and trapping them in a nightmare they cannot escape from. One knight is snatched up and torn apart by the vicious creatures swirling around his broken body. From the high throne of the sky, the eye monster watches with cold indifference as its minions destroy everything. The remaining warriors are paralyzed by shock, having no idea how to survive this hopeless and bloody situation. Lord Anderson drops his blade as the swarm surrounds him. He closes his eyes, fully expecting his life to end. But then he glances back and sees Arthur casually speaking to his apprentice amidst the absolute carnage. The hero whispers a single word, teleport. Instantly, the Lady of the Valkyries vanishes just as the shadows were about to strike her down. Sir Leofric, moments away from being eaten alive, suddenly disappears into thin air. Sir Gawain, trapped in a dark cocoon, is also gone. Lord Anderson, who is waiting for death's cold embrace, finds himself whisked away from the monsters in a flash of light. With the knights gone, Arthur stands alone to face the colossal god of the abyss. He looks at the Titan and admits it is surprisingly strong. As his green aura flares and his wings spread wide, he faces the sea of monsters jumping at him from every single side. Now pay attention, because Arthur ignores the small fry and focuses entirely on the main enemy. A blinding aura of emerald light wraps around his body as he prepares his ultimate spell. He unleashes the solar veil, forcing the very sun to turn pitch black in the sky. The resulting shadow makes the creatures of the void dissolve and vanish into nothingness instantly. They let out blood-curdling screams as they are incinerated by the emerald flames burning them alive. The giant eye roars in fury, wondering where this man came from who cannot be drained of his mana. With a gaze of pure ice, our hero stares down the beast and tells it the time has come. Massive shadows ripple across the earth as he releases his full might. The sky turns to midnight as the eclipse finishes, and the monster begins to crumble into dust before our very eyes. A sphere of pure darkness replaces the sun, crowned by a ring of eternal dragon fire. Suddenly, the world shifts, and the hero finds himself standing in a frozen wasteland under a dead sky. A rift opens, dumping all the teleported knights into a safe location. Elinor screams for her master, but he is nowhere to be found. Her fellow knight looks around in total confusion, trying to make sense of this strange situation. The friend asks where they are, and she realizes they have been moved 60 miles away. Lord Anderson turns around, frantically asking where the legendary winged hero went. The apprentice looks terrified, whispering that it seems her master stayed behind to fight alone. Hearing this, one of the knights panics, wondering out loud if the young man actually survived. Elinor snaps, pointing her sword at the coward who instantly backs away. With a stern look, Lord Anderson tells his soldier to shut his mouth if he wants to stay alive. And that is where you and I leave it, pushing forward into the unknown. Stick with me. You're about to see how our hero used forbidden magic to heal up and vanish. The apprentice confirms her master's promise to reunite soon. Meanwhile, Sir Gawain is left reeling, convinced the young man was just a swordsman and definitely not a high-level mage. The warrior woman demands to head back to the battlefield, searching for any way to reach the ruins. Sir Gawain tells her that royal transports are on their way, and he intends to use them. The ladies beg to join the search, desperate to find their master. With a polite bow, they plead for the chance to accompany the knights. Gawain knows having such skilled fighters by his side is a win, so he agrees to bring them. Elsewhere, a hooded figure surveys the ruins, sensing pure magic in the air. He gazes at the eclipse, shocked by the overwhelming power unleashed during the battle. Lady Arabella warns that events in the Eastern Empire have spiraled out of control. Now pay attention. They need to identify the mysterious mage who resisted such massive primordial energy. The Grand Master orders them to contact Lord Bennet to uncover the mage's true goals. Then, Arabella asks how they should handle Lord Gainlon and if he poses a threat. She reports that Gainlon is absolutely livid at the northern hero for meddling in his secret mission. The stern leader tells him to wait, as the conflict in the Empire is already finished. She departs as the master vows not to let his plans fail. Meanwhile, the sky clears, and our hero demands that the hidden watcher show themselves. Suddenly, a tiny shadow creature wearing a porcelain mask manifests right before his very eyes. You and I both saw that coming, right? The creature kneels, hailing the hero as his true king. Our protagonist tells his servant to rise and stares him down. The shadow servant explains that the others are missing. He only sensed the king's massive aura returning. Realizing the stakes, our hero commands his loyal servant to open the ancient gate right now. The servant follows orders, and a swirling portal of pure darkness erupts from the earth before him. Instantly, the young hero is pulled inside, racing through a shimmering tunnel of violet magical energy. The scene shifts to a grand, golden throne room where we find our hero seated casually upon the royal throne, legs crossed like he owns the entire world. And that's where we stop. Trust me, you and I are going to want to see what happens next. Ring that bell for more on 𝒕𝒏𝒕s.